IB Nation, welcome to the Notre Dame post-game show. I'm Brian, that's Vince. We're going to dive right into it. Notre Dame, Vince, we were walking out to the car after the game, and we ran into a listener of the show, and he had a comment that, like, literally exactly what you and I said to each other about 30 seconds before we bumped into him. He said, it was a weird game. They got it done. And that's exactly what this game was, Vince, and we're going to talk all about it, break it all down tonight and tomorrow. But look, it was a game where it was very obvious from the beginning that Notre Dame was looking past Central Michigan to Ohio State, and they were. It was a sloppy game. Notre Dame had a lot of mistakes, a lot of missed opportunities on offense, a lot of mistakes on defense, some sloppy play on defense, some issues we had with coaching at times. 8 penalties in the game, a week after having 10 last week.
Yeah.
And the penalties in this game, Vince, were very problematic because they either killed drives, extended drives for the other team. But at the end of the day, Notre Dame won 41-17 and outgained Central Michigan by 310 yards. So they got the job done. And it's, I see people talking about, Ohio State was better today, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, so Notre Dame's 3-1 against Ohio State now because they've looked better in 3 of the other weeks, right? That's not how football works.
Nope.
We're going to have a lot to pick apart about this game, a lot to praise about this game too. But at the end of the day, Vince, you got to play better than you did today. There's no doubt about it. But it does speak to you as a football team when you can kind of go out there against a team that's not very good and play really not good football and do what you need to do, outgain them by 310 yards and win 41-17. Lot to clean up. But that's a much better feeling than when they brought their BC game last year and lost to Marshall, lost to Stanford, and barely beat Navy. It's a different team. They got a lot to get better, but I'm only saying this because we were going to be more critical early on, but then I read the meltdown going on by some in the chat about, is this really a top 10 football team? I'm like, have you watched college football today?
Seriously.
Have you watched Georgia today? Did you watch Alabama today? Right, guys? Like, Notre Dame is 4-0. They've scored 40 points in each of the first 4 games. Last time that's happened was 1900. 32 years before my 91-year-old grandmother was born. Okay. And they set a school record for 5 straight games with 40-plus games if you trace it back to last year's bowl game against South Carolina. When you are scoring 40-plus a game and your closest game is 21 points over a Power 5 team and you're 4 games in, guys, yes, you are a top 10 football team. Are they as good as they need to be? Not yet. Still a work in progress. But this is a much better football team than we've seen in the top 10. And they went out today, Vince, and despite it being a sloppy game and sometimes an ugly game, Notre Dame's 4-0 and won 41-17. And College Game Day is coming to Notre Dame next week for a battle of 2 top 10 teams, Notre Dame and Ohio State. They announced that here a little bit ago as well.
Well, as well they should. I mean, I'm not going to jump into College Game Day because, I mean, they picked the marquee game that's on the calendar, and this is the marquee game. I mean, look. Here's how I feel about this whole thing. I feel like, big picture wise, we're going to say a lot of the same things that we said after last week, and then a lot of the same things that we said after week 2. And have we seen Notre Dame play the perfect game? Nope. And I said this to you before we started. It's like, until Notre Dame plays the perfect game, it's not going to make everybody happy. And I hate to break it to everybody. The perfect football game does not exist. That's never going to happen. Yeah. And so people are just going to have to be upset. I mean, that's the be all end all. Now, I am not sitting here with the rose-colored Notre Dame glasses on. There were a lot of mistakes. There were, and we're going to talk about those. There's no doubt about it. Probably more specifically tomorrow night. Tune in. But there were mistakes. Everything that all the mistakes that were made can be cleaned up. I mean, all of that's not an issue. I think a lot of it had to do with some of the guys that weren't playing. I think that had something to do with it. We'll jump into that a little bit.
On defense, for sure.
Right. I didn't want to get specific yet. But
we'll get
100%.
I'm like, hold on a second. I don't think Mitchell Evans is the reason.
Don't knock 88, okay?
DJ Brown. Yeah.
But anyway, so everything is fixable. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, no, a performance today would not beat Ohio State, but they weren't playing Ohio State. That's what you have to understand, okay? This team wasn't playing a top 5 team in the country today. So they didn't have to have their A game. Would we all would have loved for them to come out of their first 6 possessions. You go 80 yards, you score touchdowns every single time. No drops, no incomplete passes. You're averaging 10 yards a carry. Yes, of course. That's what everybody wants. That's not reality either. And so, yes, they made mistakes. Yes, they also did a lot of really good things too. And so everybody just needs to catch their breath. At the end of the day, they're 4-0 going into the biggest game of the year up to this point. That's what everybody wanted. And people were saying, I don't know if they're going to get past NC State and, Central Michigan's a trap game and, all these different – they're 4-0. And when you look at the score and when you look at the yards gained versus the yards given up, Notre Dame did what they were supposed to do, folks. That's where we're at. So people just need to take a breath, just breathe, enjoy the ride, okay? As we say on the boards, as we say at Irish Breakdown, you got to let it play out, everybody. Right. Let the season play out, okay? 4-0. That's where they're at.
Well, and that's the key, Vince, right? Is like, look, as a coach, like we're saying this to calm some people down, but at the same time, there's reasons to be a little fired up about how the team played, right? And
sure.
And we're going to dive into those. This isn't going to be, like you said, this is going to be a everything is awesome show, right? We're going to talk about the things we saw today and the things that we liked a lot and things that we didn't like a lot. Before we dive into those, Vince, just a little inside the numbers. Notre Dame obviously won 41-17. They had 23 first downs to CMU, Central Michigan's 14. They had 236 rushing yards to Central Michigan's 131. They had 342 passing yards to Central Michigan's 137. Outgained them by a grand total of, 578 to 268 in the win. And now the big number. So, like, the interesting thing is on paper, this looks like a great victory, Vince. And I think that speaks to how talented this team is, that on paper it looked like a great victory. But obviously when you watch the game and break it down, there's a lot that needs to get cleaned up. But again, I will take a sloppy, looking ahead performance and winning 41-17 any day of the week. Again, sometimes you got to have context, right? It's good to say, hey, look, that was not good enough. They're not going to beat the best teams in the country playing that way. Well, I have newsflash. Georgia's not beating a lot of the best teams in the country the way they played today either. Ohio State's not beating a lot of the best teams in the country the way they played the last 2 weeks before today. Bama's not playing that way the way they're playing today and last week. It's part of the process, but Notre Dame is doing what they need to do. They're getting the wins, and when you can be sloppy and not play anywhere close to your best football, and outgain any football, it's a good foundation to have. And now it's about getting ready for next week. And because Ohio State and Notre Dame came into this week in different places, Ohio State was still trying to find their groove. Notre Dame is just trying to keep momentum going into next week. So again, Vince, I'll take that 41-17 victory in that regard. So let's transition, Vince, into the performance of the Notre Dame offense and really kick things off in this fashion. First and foremost, let's talk a little game plan. What we liked, what we didn't like. There were some things we'll get into that I didn't love, but I'll tell you the first thing that really stuck out to me today, and we'll get into the players here in a second, but I really liked the way that Notre Dame win at Central Michigan from a run game scheme standpoint. I'll talk what I didn't like about the run game from a personnel standpoint here in a few, but I really wanted to start off with that, Vince. They've been a very inside dominant team running the football this year. Last week I broke it down. Inside zone and counter were really and power were the plays that they had success with. They came out today, had success running power again today, had some big gains on power. But I think one of the first plays of the game, they ran a toss, right, to get outside. And so
right away.
I thought they did a really nice job of mixing up the inside-outside runs and keeping Central Michigan off balance. And again, with you look at the numbers, and they outgained them 578 to 268. They had 236 rushing yards. They had a 72-yard touchdown run called back from a really questionable holding penalty, in my opinion. The other holdings were they actually got away with a couple holds in this game on the offensive line. The one on Holden States I thought was a little questionable. I thought that guy was just a bad defensive player. But again, there were some really good things done in the run game today, scheme-wise. I'm not going to talk too much about the offensive line today because I need to rewatch the film.
Just not sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to rewatch the film. I was, at games, I tend to watch the back end, and Peacock's feed was so late that we couldn't watch the replay on the screen.
Yes.
So what I normally do when I'm breaking down a game, Vince, is I'll watch the play and I'll watch the stuff you can't see on TV. I watch the back end, the outside, things like that. And then I'll look up and I'll watch the replay and then go back to the live play, watch the replay. But the Peacock feed was so slow that by the time they would run the play up on the screen, the next play was already being run. Yeah. So I'm not going to have a lot to say about the O-line today. That'll be more of what we cover in tomorrow's upon further review. But at the end of the day, Vince, I thought that schematically from a run game standpoint, I liked what I saw today. We saw a lot of different stuff, a lot of different wrinkles. They ran a lot of power O today, out of a completely different alignment than they ran it last week against NC State. And they really had a lot of success. They were about to break a couple of those toss plays. I'm telling you, man, they were always one guy away twice from breaking a couple of those toss plays.
Yeah.
So I thought schematically, I really liked what we saw from them run game wise.
Yeah, no, I did too. And it's funny. I mean, we're just talking about the run game. I mean, at the end of the day, they could have run the ball every single time and probably been successful if they wanted to be. Yes, there were a few here and there where they were running into a loaded box and some things of that nature. And that is what it is, because a lot of times that stuff sets up something else. But, against this defense, they could have run the ball at will, right? And they didn't, which I was happy about.
They could have thrown the ball at will too, honestly.
And I didn't want to get into that because we weren't talking about the pass game just yet. But I had somebody text me in the middle of the game. They're like, how come Notre Dame's passing the ball so much? Because they can. They
needed to. That was one of the keys to the game,
absolutely.
Vince, we'll talk about tomorrow. It's we know they can go run on Central Michigan at will. Can they throw on them? That's a key.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. And then that's the important thing here, is that they did come out with a balanced game plan and what they wanted to do. And I thought almost a little bit too much was it balanced, and with what they were kind of throwing out there, and some of the formations that they were throwing out there and the personnel that they were throwing out there. It's like, hey, let's give Ohio State a ton of stuff to prepare for, or to just put on film. And I mean, they were out there in 30 personnel at one point, with 3 running backs and no tight ends. And it's like, all right, but they only did it for one play, and so it's going to be in the back of the mind of Ohio State, but they're not going to spend a lot of time on it. I felt like they did that a couple of different times in this game. Like, they ran the ball a bunch out of 13, and then they started throwing the ball out of 13. And then, it's a lot of 12. I don't know. There was just a lot that they did, but I almost wonder if it was just too much.
Well, that was kind of my issue that I had with it. I thought that the play calling scheme was really good. The mixing up the runs. I mean, I'm looking at it here, and first play of the game, they ran toss, then they ran these are just kind of watching it live. I had inside zone and duo the next 2 plays. It may have been inside zone, duo and duo, but it was an inside run.
Sure.
I'll go back and edit it later. Then they threw a deep ball on play 4. So, I mean, but first play of the game, they ran toss. You come back the next series, they throw the ball on down 1. They ran counter on the next play, then pass, went back to counter. Then they ran that 30 personnel play, then inside run. They ran, I thought it was duo for the touchdown, but again, I have to go back and break it down.
Sure.
Come back in series 3, run a jet sweep to Jaden Thomas, and then 2 plays after that, you're throwing a seam route. So I thought from that standpoint, I really liked what we saw from Jared Parker as far as keeping Central Michigan off balance.
Sure.
They didn't let Central Michigan just key in on the run game. I was worried the way the game started, run, pass. I was like, they're just going to come out here and just pound Central Michigan,
just like we've seen,
and it's going to be ugly and not really build on the things you need to build on, and not improve the areas you need to improve upon. And I was kind of, the BK PTSD kicks in right away, like first 3 plays. I did what I always get annoyed with people in the chat doing, like the live chat during the game. And I'm like, I'm already making assumptions about how the game is going to go after like 3 plays. And then boom, 75-yard touchdown at Tobias Merriweather. And then they kind of came out and mixed it up. So I really like that. The only issue I had about it is way too 12 and 13 personnel dominant today. Way too much. And now part of me can say, well, they're setting up Ohio State. Well, they've been doing this now for 3 weeks in a row. I mean, they've been running this stuff for now 3 weeks in a row. So at some point, you just kind of have to come to grips with the fact that this is just who they are, and they're just going to be that still a lot. I don't love it. I'm not like thrilled about it.
Yeah,
because I'll bet you, Vince, a ham sandwich that when we get the snap counts, that Davis Sherwood will have played more snaps than Chris Tyree and maybe even Tobias Merriweather. And that's not a knock on Davis Sherwood, because I thought Davis Sherwood blocked well today.
Yeah, I did too.
But when you're using him on the field and he's your number 3 tight end and your starting tight end is hurt and your decision is to just keep doing what you're doing, it's like, well, did you really play to your personnel the best of your ability today?
Sure.
And then Chris Tyree goes out and has a 76-yard touchdown, and like we barely saw him in the second half. We saw a ton of Jaden Greathouse, and it's like, okay, I know you're trying to get the young guy some reps. There was at one point in time in the second half, the game was still somewhat in doubt. You had 3 freshmen on the field at once. You had Rico Flores was playing, and you had Jeremiah Love in there, and you had Jaden Greathouse on the field. And I'm like, okay, I get what you're doing, but like, is Chris Tyree really that finished product yet at wide receiver? Is Tobias Merriweather really that finished product yet at wide receiver that they're not going to get those reps? And so those are some of the nitpicks I had from the game today. But, you know, I thought overall, game plan wise, I didn't have a lot of complaints from the game, and I really liked what we saw run game wise. I mean, the big pass, they came out second half, the big pass play, I think it was the first drive of the second half, Vince. I mean, they just went old school post dig.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it was post, dig, cross.
In every high school.
I mean, playbook. Dude, I remember we hit that for a touchdown against Washington Jefferson back in 2004 when I was at CNU, right? Like, that's just old school play, man. But it's like, it's a great play to run when teams are playing you the way that they're playing Notre Dame. So we saw a more concerted effort to get outside with the football in the pass game. I thought that was important. We saw stop routes being run. Notre Dame was 0 for 2 on go routes coming into this game. 0 for 2.
True. That's true.
Today they hit 2. They hit the one, and they hit them for 117 yards combined, right? 75 plus 42. Am I doing the math correct? Is that 117?
Sure.
So, so 2 completions for 117 yards, 1 touchdown, and that's kind of basically where,
there was a concerted effort to throw the ball down the field. Right. I mean, there's no doubt about it, and I think that was a good thing, because we haven't seen that enough, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, all offseason we're talking about Sam Hartman's, long ball ability and all of these different things, and we just hadn't seen it. I mean, outside of like every once in a while, and it wasn't enough for my taste.
The deep balls we had seen, Vince, were like seam routes. We hit a couple things like that. Not a lot of those deep shots. I don't even
think those are all that deep. Like, seam route.
Like the inside post, they've hit a couple of those. But, so that was good to see. We saw stop routes, hitch routes. We saw them complete 2 hitch routes today. We saw them complete a couple stop routes.
Sure.
So we saw a more concerted effort to get the ball outside today.
Tunnel screen.
And I thought that was important. They ran a couple tunnels last week too, but they hit a tunnel. They hadn't really had success on tunnels since the opener against Navy.
Yep.
So they hit a couple of those, but overall, I was pleased with the game plan, Vince, outside of and the other thing that I didn't love is they do way too much personnel adjusting in series. I talked about this earlier in the week, and it just seemed like it was even a heavier dose of that today, where it's just like every play they're subbing 2-3 guys out. And like, I get what you're doing, but you worry, like, are you letting your skill players get into any kind of rhythm when you're doing that? That's my concern.
About getting more guys in the game.
Yeah.
There was one period, and I think it was in the third quarter, maybe off the top of my head, where they went fast. And it was when they tried to pick up that 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2 or something along those lines. And it was about 3 plays in a row where they just went fast, and they were in 11 personnel. And it was just go, go, go. Like, I couldn't even, because I'm charting on the computer, personnel and all that stuff. I couldn't even write down everything. Like, it was so fast. So it's like, they have that, like, it's there. They have that ability, but then they went back to like huddling. And when they would huddle, they would be personnel in and out. And that was a little bit frustrating. I get what you're saying, but if they want to go fast, Brian, they can go fast. And I'm interested to see. I feel like that's kind of a hidden weapon that they haven't really utilized just yet. And I'm hoping that they do at some point. Maybe that's Ohio State, maybe it's not, but there's a piece of me that's hoping that they're just kind of trying out everything and seeing where they're at with a lot of things, and we're going to see what this team is all made of, next week. Now, you're absolutely right when you say they've had 4 games, and it's probably that is who they are, and I totally get that.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's still a piece of me that's like, are they really going to go all 12 and 13 personnel against Ohio State? Is that really going to be the game plan?
You're really going to play
not.
Davis Sherwood and Cooper
Right.
Flanagan more than Chris Tyree next week against the Buckeyes? I mean,
that's
based on what we saw today, if Mitchell Evans doesn't go, which I assume he will, he had a concussion.
Sure.
I mean, that's kind of where they are.
Yeah, that would be disappointing.
Yeah.
Those guys do a good job when they're on the field, but that's not where Notre Dame needs to be.
So let's talk, Vince. Let's go kind of player by player, and let's start with the quarterback. We'll go running back, receiver. Let's go quarterback, receivers, running back in this game, and we'll save the best for last, and that's going to be the running back position. Sam Hartman today. Here's a fascinating statistic, and you want to talk about
this is fascinating.
You want to talk about the best way to describe the change of having Sam Hartman a quarterback is this statistic right here. In the last 2 games, Sam Hartman has only completed 15 passes in each of the last 2 games. That's it. 15 passes in each of the last 2 games. And matter of fact, what was his stat line? Did he go 15 of 24 again today? See, he was 15. He was. It looks like they upped his. 16. It looks like they upped his statistics. So he had ended up 16. So he had 15 last week, and he had 16. You saw it, Vince. The thing at the stadium said he only had 15 completions. So they upped it to 16 in the official statistics. But he completed 16 passes this week, and he only completed 15 last week. And I say that because I'm making a point. Last year at Wake Forest, he only completed less than 15 passes once, and that was in a 45-10 win over Army. He only completed fewer than 20 passes 3 times. He only completed fewer than 20 passes 4 times in 2021, and they were against Old Dominion, Norfolk State, a blowout win over Virginia, and then a win over Syracuse. And he has never as a starter. Actually, let's see, you have to go back to 2020. You have to go back to 2020, the COVID year, to find the last time that Sam Hartman completed fewer than 17 passes in a game. And he did that twice in a row. He's averaging 308 yards in those last 2 games. 31 completions is it for him in the last 2 games. And he's thrown for 616 yards. Right? Yeah. Like that right there is the biggest change. And it's funny because the first couple games were like, are they really gonna be able to, be this efficient all year? And no, not a ton of big plays. And then the last 2 weeks, it's just been a ton of big plays, right? So the last 2 weeks, they've had a 76-yard touchdown in the pass game, a 75-yard touchdown in the pass game, a 65-yard gain in the pass game, a 42-yard gain in the pass game, a 40-yard touchdown in the pass game, and then a 39-yard gain in the pass game, and then a 35-yard touchdown in the pass game. Like they have gotten a lot more dynamic with their pass game. And part of it's the skill, right? The talent's there. The other part of it is you've got a quarterback that can throw a beautiful deep ball. And we finally saw them turn that outside go ball loose today. And I mean, the pass to Rico Flores was an absolute freaking dime. I mean, that was, like the kid stumbled against Tobias partly because of how bad Tobias beat him on the transition. I mean, he smoked the dude. I don't know if it would have gone for 75-yard touchdown, but it was going to be a big play. Yeah. It was going to be a big play regardless. He had that guy beat. Yeah. He still might. But the thing is, the way that Sam threw it, he still might have scored on that play, Vince, because Tobias never had to break stride.
Sure.
On that play. And then the same thing on the play to Chris Tyree, never had to break stride. Rico never had to break stride. If Rico Flores has to break stride at all, that guy has a chance to make that. Rico Flores has a chance to break that play up. Or the DB has a chance to break that play up.
Right.
So to me, he was on point with his downfield throwing game today.
Oh, absolutely.
He also did a much better job protecting the football today. I can't remember a single play, Vince, that I look at, but he almost turned the ball over on that one.
Right. Right.
He
wasn't.
So that was good.
He wasn't really well. He got a little bit of pressure. There was a little bit of pressure.
There was
times.
more than there should have been against this team.
Agreed.
I thought.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But he got hit low that one time, but the ball was already out. That kind of, and he got rushed. He got flushed out of the pocket once or twice. But no, I agree with you. I mean, and I know we're still talking about the positives, so I don't want to go down that road, but I do.
Well, no, I mean, we're just talking. We're
Okay.
just talking about to play the quarterback.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and you and I talked about this at the beginning of the game. It felt like he was just a little bit too hesitant, and I don't know if it was because
he wasn't seeing things real quick.
Was he trying not to turn the ball over against a bad opponent? Was he, I don't know, but there were some dudes running wide open down the field. Like this could have,
a couple of them came open late.
Sure,
like
but he still had the ball
late on one. Yeah. Jaden was just beat a dude on the one that he should have.
Remember, he's just in the end zone going like that. Like you know that what is it? That movie with Scott Bakula, Necessary Roughness. Where he's got the guy in the cornfield, like the dummy with the number on it, and then it flashes to he's wide open in the end zone. Like that's what it reminded me of, right? And Sam just missed him, right? And so he missed a few guys, early on, and he was just hesitant.
That he didn't throw it. Are you talking about the ones he didn't throw it to?
Correct.
Or he went somewhere? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Not that he threw it and it was like off target. He missed him. Like he didn't see it, and he didn't want to throw it, or whatever the case may be. Right. So that was a little concerning at the beginning, but then he kind of settled in and did what Sam Hartman does.
Well, like the throw to Chris Tyree, that was open at least once, maybe twice.
Right.
Before that.
Right.
I mean, that was there before, but he eventually went to it. And then the second half, like you said, Vince, I thought there were some things CMU was doing that didn't look quite familiar to me. And we've seen that a lot from Notre Dame. We talked about that in the pregame show. They're going to throw stuff at Notre Dame that they can't handle. I was surprised that Central Michigan didn't pressure more. They kind of played like they didn't overload numbers, and that's partly why they got ripped up. Honestly, I mean, and again, Notre Dame would have had close to 700 yards if not for a couple really dumb penalties. Well, one dumb penalty, another that was questionable penalty.
Yeah,
because I believe on that one that got called back, I don't believe Notre Dame scored. I think Notre Dame, they punted the next play.
Right.
So
is that what it was?
Yeah, because they had scored on the first drive of the half to make it 28-14, and then Central Michigan punted.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
And then that was about to make it 35-14, game over.
Yeah.
And they ended up punting, and then Central Michigan went down and got a field goal to make it 28-17. And, then Notre Dame had to kick the field goal to make it 31-17. But the game would have been over at that point in time already, if not for that holding penalty, which I didn't think was I still don't know. I have to go back and watch it again, but watching the replay, it didn't look like
I watched it a couple times, and his hands.
I thought the guy did a bad job. I thought the guy did a bad job getting off the block. I thought that's really what it had more to do with that. So
and unfortunately for some not great officials, if you've set the edge and you're on an island by yourself as a receiver or a tight end or whatever, but by yourself, it's just you and another guy, and that guy puts his hands in the air or does something stupid. Oh, that's got to be a hold. And you're going to throw that flag. No, it was a really good block is what it was. But,
I thought so too.
Frustrating. That part was frustrating.
But it's nice, Vince, when your quarterback can have he just wasn't processing things great in the first half and go 16 of 26 for 330 yards. I mean, that's the thing. And last week I heard people picking him apart. Oh, I didn't play real well against Cincy State. I'm like, he went 15 of 24 for 286 yards and 4 touchdowns. I'll take not playing well with those numbers for 500, Alex. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
thank
you. Seriously. And again, 31 completions. And he's
2 games for over 600 yards.
He's still for over 600 yards and 7 touchdowns and 0 interceptions.
Right.
I mean, I'll take an off Sam Hartman, I guess.
And here's what I like about the pass game, Vince. Your last 2 weeks, you're talking about 616 yards total passing in the last 2 games. You've had 31 completions, and you've had 54, 26 or 24, 20. So 50 attempts, right? Last 2 games. So you're talking about Notre Dame's last 2 games. They're averaging 12.3 yards per pass attempt. Per attempt. The last 2 games, right? Per attempt. Just to give you some context of what that means for Notre Dame. Last year, the Notre Dame offense averaged 11 or 12.8 yards per completion for the entire season. 12.8 yards per completion for the entire season. In the last 2 games, Notre Dame is over 12 yards per attempt. And I would imagine it's kind of close to that for the season because Hartman was at 11.1 yards per attempt coming into the game, or 11.4 yards per attempt coming into the game. And today he averaged 12.7 yards per attempt. So it's been pretty good so far, Vince. It's been pretty good so far. And again, there's still areas where
for sure
improvement's going to needed, but I liked what I saw today. I thought he did a really nice job staying back in the pocket today, just trusting his offensive line today.
Yeah.
I thought that was something that impressed me, especially as much as he got hit last week. There's a couple times he let some balls loose and he just, the pocket's kind of going around him and he just stayed there and got rid of the ball. I liked that.
Talk a little bit about that one play. It was the Jaden Thomas deep ball and how he altered his throw.
Yeah.
We were talking. I want you to bring that up because we were talking about it in the
press
box.
thought he aimed it. I just thought he saw that Jaden had the guy beat.
Because it was a little too much to the inside. Jaden had to make a really nice play to go catch
short.
it. Yeah,
like he should have thrown it a little bit, maybe 5 yards down the field more, and then Jaden catches it on the run and it's a touchdown. Right. So I thought at first he just aimed it. Watching it live, he aimed it because once they saw him short arm it, I'm following the ball and watching Jaden catch it. And so I look back and I look at the replay, and to me it looked like Pat Coogan was getting knocked into him. And he threw it in a way to where his hand wasn't going to hit the guy in front of him.
Hit the helmet.
That's what it looked to me.
Break his finger.
That's a savvy dude right there.
Yeah.
It's like that's why he short armed it, because he's like, I can't normally stretch it out because otherwise I'm going to crack it right on the back of Pat Coogan.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an impressive play, but it just threw it out there and let his guy go make a play on it.
And he did.
That's the thing is every ball doesn't have to be perfect. Go throw it out there and give your guy a chance to go make a play on it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he did.
Yep,
so,
absolutely.
Yep.
So I thought that was, again, it's one of the better parts about having a 6-year quarterback, guys. I'm telling you, he's going to make little plays like that make a difference. That they just make a difference, and he knows, or he doesn't want to get hurt. He knows him getting hurt is going to hurt this offense. And so make that smart play. And guess what? His guy made a play for him. And at the end of the day, that goes a lot to the confidence level. I'm not saying Sam Hartman didn't have confidence in Jaden Thomas, coming into the game, but wherever that confidence level was, just went up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was nice to see him and Tobias Merriweather connect on a couple more balls and to see some of those deep throws connect. And
you want to hear something funny? I was looking at the stats that the stat cast or whatever. They have shorted our guy Merriweather a catch. You want to know why?
Why?
Because Cam Hart apparently had one catch for 10 yards.
Yeah, that was pretty silly. Tobias had 3 catches for 91 yards.
According to this, Cam Hart had 1 for 10, so I think it would be 3 for 98.
No, he had Tobias had 3 catches.
Oh, I'm
2
sorry.
catches
I'm
for 81 yards. You're looking at
Excuse
Tyree.
Me. I'm sorry. I was looking at Tyree.
He had 2 catches for 81 yards.
I just thought that was funny.
Cam Hart had a catch for 10.
Because that was one of the points I wanted to make was that once again, Sam Hartman spread the ball out to his various receivers. It says 9 receivers. I was looking at the names. I was like, I don't remember Cam Hart catching a ball, but so it's 8 receivers, not 9. But still, he falls right in line with what he's been doing. 10 receivers, 9 receivers, 8 receivers. Whoever's open is going to get the rock, man. And that should seamlessly segue to the wide receivers and why they need to be doing what they need to do every single play, because you never know when the ball's coming to you.
I was a little frustrated with the play of the receivers today at times. I thought they did some good things in the game today. I thought Jaden played pretty well. I mean, he led him with 4 catches for 63 yards. Should have had I'm trying to remember what play was it. Might have put him over 100 yards. I think it was far enough back where if he makes that throw, it might probably puts him over 100 yards. You know what I'm talking about? Where he just beat the guy with a go route and Sam just went away from him super quick. Or I don't even know if he even looked at him. I have to go back and watch that one when we get the all 22. But so that was kind of it was during that period where he just was just not crisp going through stuff,
Yep.
But there were too many times, Vince, where what's frustrating is when you watch the receivers come off and they're fast, and then there's other times you watch them come off and they're not coming off fast, and people are like, oh, that's because they're slow. No, you can tell the difference between when a guy is slow and when a guy is running slow. There's a difference. When a guy's running slow, it means he's not running fast as he should be. And there are way too many times when Notre Dame's receivers today were coming off the ball with really no urgency. And we've complained about this before, and it's especially true when teams are playing off coverage. And it's a real frustrating. There was like one particular play on like third down. I think Hartman maybe threw it away or ended up like I can't remember what happened. They ended up not getting. I'm like, guys, it's 3rd and 9. Why the heck are you guys like coming off the line 3/4 speed? Like, what is going on here?
This is where you should have the most urgency to get into your routes and make good cuts and you know all of those different things. And so that was disappointing for sure.
Yeah. So it's an issue that's been happening now for multiple games. Just the inconsistency from a get off standpoint on vertical routes. Like there's times when you're not going to come off fast. You're running a delay route or a stutter go or an under route, or you need to win at the line with your release. That's fine. But when teams are playing off, you need to go eat up that cushion right away. And they don't do that. And I don't know if they're not taught to do that or what the question is, what the issue is, but that's now happening for multiple weeks, and that's a problem, and that's going to have to get cleaned up when you're playing against better secondary players. There's no doubt about that.
Agreed.
But I thought the blocking downfield, from what I could tell, was good. But look, they did a nice job getting open. They did a nice job making a couple catches in some contested situations. Not always. Sam missed an open Jaden Greathouse on a corner route. He was a little high on Jaden on another, but he had to be because there was a defender coming coming from the opposite direction. If he throws up on a line, that guy steps right in front of him, picks it off.
Sure.
Jaden's got to know that ball is going to go high, and he's got to go get it. Obviously that's going to be a big part of it. But once again, you saw the ball get spread around, and it was a solid day from the receivers outside of 3 plays. But those 3 plays were huge.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't discount that. You can't just say, well, other than the 70, 4 plays really, other than the 76-yard touchdown, the 75-yard touchdown, the 42-yard catch that set up a touchdown, and the 39-yard catch that set up a touchdown, the receivers didn't play that great.
Right.
I mean, but they
still had to do those things.
They did those things, and now it's just about next week, just in moving forward against Duke and the rest of the teams. It's like, you got to really make sure, that you're playing with more urgency in the pass game with your releases. That's going to be a big key. Notre Dame just released a thing that they said that they updated the stat book. So I'm curious if they they got Tobias correct now. He led the team with 91 receiving yards, had 3 catches. They still haven't corrected the stat book from the Tennessee State game. They still have Howard Cross as that pass break up on that ball that Jordan Patelho broke up. But whatevs. Whatevs. But they sent out the correct one. They have
that's good.
They have Tobias Merriweather now with 3 catches for 91 yards.
Yeah.
So seeing him and Tyree get going deep, that was a great sign. It was a really great sign.
It's funny. I leaned over to you and Sean. He was finishing up the play, and I was like, thank God he caught that ball, because if he didn't,
you said that to Sean because I was outside.
That's right.
And then you told me that when I came back in.
I go, because if he drops that ball, we just pack it up right now, because that's all anybody's going to talk about when this game is over. Thank goodness he caught that ball and went in for 6, because that was I'm glad he got that monkey off his back. I hope. Because I thought he
made a tough catch last week on the 45-yard gain with a safety closing on him. So I mean, look, he dropped the first pass of the year. That's the only drop he's had.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like,
he's got the scarlet letter though, man.
Yeah,
he just can't win with people.
Yeah. So I mean, last 2 weeks, Tobias has done some pretty good things the last 2 weeks, right? I mean, last week he had 1 catch for 45 yards. Should have had another. Had a 3rd down conversion taken away because of a penalty on somebody else. This week 3 for 91. So hopefully this is the beginning of something. Something better. Let's talk tight end wise. Vince, obviously Holden Stace missed a chance to really separate himself.
Sure.
Build on last week, and then with Mitchell Evans out, obviously had the holding penalty. And even though it should have been a holding, again, what's the teaching point, Vince? Keep working around to the outside. Keep working your feet to the outside of that guy. Had that drop on 3rd and 10. You could tell, Vince, they ran that quick Y option to him. You could tell it was the play right before they attempted the 59-yard field goal. You could tell on that particular play they were doing one of 2 things. Let's get some yardage and then maybe get in better field goal position. But what I think they were doing, Vince, is let's get it to him quick, and maybe he can make somebody miss and pick up the first down. But otherwise, we're in 2-down territory.
Right.
Get 6 or 7 on 3rd and 10, and then we're in 4th down territory. We're going for it. They were 2-0 on 4th downs in this game, Vince. But you had that drop. That was disappointing, not taking advantage of that. I thought we'll have to go back and kind of reread or rewatch the game and look at a couple things. But I thought, from what I could tell, that Cooper Flanagan blocked really well from what I could tell in the game. I thought, again, I'll have to break it down, but just what was the one long, there was one long run that
it was, yes, it was.
And Cooper just drove his guy out. Yeah.
It was duo, wasn't it? And he just
power.
He stood his guy up and
had a nice, yes.
He stood his guy up and then made his back, created the hole. And then Joe Alt came off of the double team and crushed the guy that came into the hole. That's when you
were talking about the double team Alt and Coogan had. That was that same place. So, it looked like duo. And Cooper had a really nice outside drive block.
He's got right up under his pads and just stood the guy
base,
up.
It was from what I could tell. Again, we'll have to break down the film and really grade it because you can't watch all 11 guys every single play. But I noticed Cooper a lot today blocking in the run game. So that was good to see. Ran a couple routes. They did a nice job of getting outside of it. So I thought that was a positive to see. I didn't see a whole lot of holding blocking today outside of that hold. So I can't tell you how he did in the run game wise. Offensive line, again, we'll break it down. A couple really sloppy plays from Blake, a couple, sloppy plays from the guards. But I thought overall the line was at least physical today. Mm-hmm. And it didn't get the movement that I wanted them to get. But again, I have to go back and break it down and dive into a little bit more. Let's talk about the running backs, Vince, because it was a very interesting game from the running backs. Early on, I really didn't love what I was seeing from the backs. I thought Audric had a really nice read on the toss on the first play. But I thought his next 2 runs on that drive, I thought he missed a cut both times. I'd go back and watch it again, but it looked to me like he missed the cut both times. Like he should have cut one back and bounced another. There were some timing issues in the run game today that worked out today, but don't work out next week. The 10-yard run that Jabron Payne had on the counter, that fine, it worked today but you ran into the guard.
Yeah.
It was actually power. Or it was a counter. I have to go back and look. I think it was counter.
I thought it was counter.
You had a pulling guard. Rocco was pulling, and he ran into Rocco because he rushed the technique. He was rushing his footwork.
You have to be patient on that because you have to allow the offensive lineman to get through and get up. Then you can go behind him, or if he's going to kick it out, you got to wait for him to kick it out. You can't run into your own guy. And
not on account, not because when you run into a guard, you expect because the guard got knocked back or something. That's not what happened.
No,
he just got down, held too quickly.
Yeah,
I thought there was run. I thought Jadarian ran well. His 15-yard run, boy, he's had about 3 or 4 runs this year where he's like a dude away from breaking that sucker.
There was one specifically where I thought he was going to go.
The 15-yarder,
he got tripped up, and I was like,
But there was another run where I thought he got downhill too slow.
Mm-hmm.
Not like speed wise, but his footwork didn't get him downhill quickly enough.
Right. And it allowed a guy to make a play.
Yes. And there was a hole opening up. So I thought the timing early and with the backs as a whole was not great, but Audric got going pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And once he got going, man, he was really, really good. And it was a lot like last week, Vince. I mean, 8 yards in his first play, then 3, then 5, and then 1, and then 1, and then on 3rd and 2, he only gets 1, doesn't get the first down. Then the next play goes for a touchdown, and then we didn't see Audric didn't carry the ball again until the second half. I mean, he had a check down catch on the late in the first half, but he didn't carry the ball after that. I don't think he carried the ball after that touchdown run. I'm looking at my play-by-play, and he had that touchdown run on drive 2. Drive 3, it was Jaden Thomas, Jeremiah Love, and then the 76-yard touchdown to Tyree. The next drive, you had a boot scramble, ran a tunnel screen to Rico, ran an inside run to Jared and Price, a little slant on 2nd and 7 to Jaden Thomas, an incomplete corner route to Rico Flores. By the way, you know that corner route that he just sailed into the out of bounds? Like he saw that. He wanted to throw the corner, but the safety played it really well. That's a throwaway. That's not a
of those.
Like he didn't like, oh
smart
my God, how did you miss
throwaways,
him that badly? No, that's a throwaway because the safety played it really well. And I thought he was late. He might have been able to fit it to him if he throws a little sooner, but I don't think he could have. So then you have a throwaway on the next play. You ran that Y option on 3rd 10 that got dropped. Next series, you run stretch to Jadarian for -3. You have a check down to Audric that goes for 8 on 2nd and 13. And you have the holding call on Blake Fisher, who should have got called for holding on the next play as well. Then you had a stop route, and then you ran that little inside route on 3rd and 11 to Jaden Greathouse. So we didn't see Audric run the ball again till the second half. And then, of course, first play of the second half, he hurdles a dude, goes for 21 yards.
He was
then
well rested.
He was kind of red hot after that, man. So Audric didn't have great numbers in the first half. I mean, he had that really nice run. But he finished with 174 yards. But, like, kind of doing the math here real quickly, Vince, it looks like he had, first drive, he had, 16 16 on the first drive, 17, 18, 35. So 35 yards in the first half. And that was it. And then he comes out in the second half and goes 7, 8, 3, 1, 1. Sam Hartman sneaks a touchdown, comes out the next drive, has the 72-yard run called back. Next drive, he goes for, let's see here. Actually, they was all throws the next drive. Then he goes next series. He has a run for 12 inside run. I mean, then he just kind of went off on that last series. He goes for 22, 13, 41, on that next drive and just kind of put it away. But he ran with some purpose in this today. The whole game, really, I thought he ran with purpose. But especially in the second half, when they started leaning on them a little bit, I thought Audric played really well. There was a lot of missed opportunities in the run game today.
Well, yeah,
which says a lot when you look at the numbers.
They had 78 yards rushing in the first quarter. You know how many yards rushing they had in the second quarter? 0.
Yeah.
That's 0. So they had 78 yards for the whole first half, and they were outgained on the ground by Central Michigan. It was 80 to 78. Right. And then at the end of the game, it's 236 to 131. Right. So obviously Notre Dame.
And then Audric ends up out rushing the entire team.
Exactly.
The entire Central Michigan team.
Correct.
So, yeah.
But again,
he was
can't start off like that. And I think some of it was by design, but then some of it was some missed opportunities as well.
Yeah, and like first drive, he was good. Went 8, 3, and 5. I mean, set up that 2nd and 5. You can throw the ball down the field, right? But then after that, it was like 1, 1, and the 17.
I'll take 78 yards rushing in one quarter.
But they were, But they were playing to stop him early on too, But I thought Audric, I thought his reads were decisive in the second half.
Yeah.
And there's a couple times, Vince, which this is how power is supposed to look, right? Sometimes power is going to go, power is actually a downhill A-gap track. And you run A-gap and you either bounce it, right, depending on how it's blocked, or you can cut that sucker back. But if you don't run power, if you're not really good at running power, you're not going to cut that back. And we've seen Notre Dame in the last couple of weeks hitting power in the backside A-gap. And I'm pretty sure Audric had 2 power runs today where he hit the backside A-gap on power. You're reading power well when you're hitting that sucker backside like that and you're cutting it that tight to the center. And Audric had a couple runs like that today, Vince. I thought he got to the second level in the second half as fast as I've ever seen him get to the second level.
So quick.
So I think they found something with that power O stuff with Audric. Yeah. Like he looks real comfortable. Yeah. He had an 80-yard touchdown run on that last week on power O.
Yeah.
Where they ran that in Power O. If you don't know what Power O is, that's why you need to be on the message board. Because I put in an article last night breaking down a little bit what Power O is and had a couple clips on it. But that was fun to see, man. Yeah. That was fun to see. Agreed. That was fun to see. That was one of the best halves of football we've seen from a running back in a while.
Yeah.
Like like Josh, it's probably since Dex. What was that game? Was it Virginia Tech? In 2018, when Dex went for 2 bills, is that when that game was? He had the 97-yarder, and Dex really went off in the second half of that game. I think it was a Virginia Tech game. No, it was a Florida State game. But yeah, the Virginia Tech game was like that too. Dex went for 178 on 17 carries. Didn't do a whole lot in the first half, but he had like a 30-yard touchdown and a 97-yard touchdown. Like once they finally got rolling, and Audric had a little bit of that today too. But he man, that second half of football was, especially when you consider he had a 72-yard touchdown run taken back.
You add that in, he ran for 8.8 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Okay. You add that 73-yarder in there, and he's in double digits. You know what I mean? Like, okay, like that's a day.
Right. You know he's averaging over 8 yards a carry on the season, right?
Ridiculous.
He was over 8 coming into this game.
Yeah.
And he went for over 8 again.
Yeah. So that's just unbelievable. And you know he's feeling it when he's in stride and he's just hurdling dudes. Like, you know, because it's pretty amazing that he has that in his arsenal, by the way, you know, with the way that he's built and put together and all of that. But he's also pretty smart because he knows, because of the way he's built and put together, guys are going to go low. I mean, that's how you bring it. You can't go high, as you're going to get run over, you know? So they got to go low. And he's like, okay, go low.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
know?
Exactly.
It's just
made him pay for it.
Right.
So it was fun to see. I thought overall the way they used the backs, you know, mixed it up pretty well. They just those young guys got to get their timing down a little bit better. We saw a little bit of this last week as well, Vince, where they just weren't quite. Jeremiah Love was getting downhill a little too quickly last week, and they just got to clean that up a little bit. But really good day from the backs.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like Jeremiah Love. Just when you've got 5 backs, right? You don't need to put 12 up the middle. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that's just like that was kind of
like, that's not necessary.
Well, not on duo, right? I mean,
you know
there's
like,
some things you can do, like run inside zone or whatever. But
maybe someday. But that now with his role, like I don't think that needs to be. You know,
the 4-man rotation at running back today went for 212 yards.
Yeah,
it's a pretty good day's work. Pretty good day's work. Would have liked to seen some 3rd and shorts get converted a little bit more effectively. That was a negative today. We saw that twice, where they had to go for it on 4th down and they ended up getting it on 4th down both times. But
less than 50% on 3rd down.
Yeah, got to be more effective on that one. They ended up going 6 of 13, Vince, but they converted their last 3 of the game to get to 6 of 13. They were 3 for 10 at 1 point.
10. Yeesh. That's
so.
Not good
but they did get the 2 4th downs, which is good. So that was a good part of it. So Vince, did the running backs last? Because that's where we're going to go with our game balls. So let's start it off, man. Go ahead.
Yeah,
another offensive game ball.
There's no way that I can't give it to Audric Estime at this point. You know, maybe there's a lineman that played really, really well, but they didn't play 8.8 yards a carry well. Okay, like Audric Estime was playing on a different level, especially in the second half. I mean, we just broke it down. I'm not going to go into crazy detail, but that kid is just a physical specimen. He is able to do some things athletically and speed-wise, for that matter, because he runs away from guys, folks. Like, he runs away from guys. He has deceptive speed. He always has. He's got quick feet in the box, in the hole, and then he'll hurdle your butt if you're in the way. Like, that dude's an athlete, man, and so he definitely gets my game ball from the offensive side.
That's a no-brainer, Vince. I mean, look, other guys had some, you know, Tobias had a great moment. Tyree had a couple big moments. Sam Hartman put up some really good numbers, but I mean, this game got put away because of Audric. I mean, that's his presence is why you had the one-on-ones down the field against Central Michigan.
Yep.
You know, because they were worried about him, and then he had some early success, and you know, the touchdown run was that on the 4th down? That touchdown, I think that was on 4th down.
Remember, it was after they called it a 1st down, and then they brought it back.
That was the
okay. Like the 2-time review.
Before we move on to the defense, we're going to talk about the officiating. So save that one for just a second here, Vince. But yeah, I thought that was I thought that was correct. That was on a.
It was. It was the 4th and like 4th and a little bit. Yeah, it was.
Yep, that was a good one. So. Audric gets the game ball for me. Storylines coming out of the game, Vince. Obviously, Notre Dame continues to be a big play offense the last 2 weeks. You know, it's funny because when you watch Audric's numbers, you're like, it didn't feel like a 176-yard game. It's just because he piled so much of it up on the second half. Because like you'd have felt like that because he had that 70-yard run.
Like, nope, that one didn't count.
Yeah, that one got called back. But think about what his numbers would have been like if they would have properly called that play.
Seriously.
Yeah, that would have been fun. So story, obviously that Sam Hartman, a big play offense, spreading the ball, continue to spread the ball around. I thought that was a positive. But look, Notre Dame offense didn't play its best day, didn't play its best game,
That too.
but still went for 578 yards and 41 points and didn't have like really any short fields to work with. Their touchdown drives were 91 yards, 75 yards, 87 yards, 74 yards, 43-yard field goal drive, 47-yard field goal drive, and then 82 yards. So like that's the other thing too about these touchdown drives is they weren't working with great field position all game. Like they were going on long drives, which says a lot about
they had
that production.
They had 5 70-plus yard drives out of 12 total drives in this game, right? I mean, that by itself is impressive. They only had 1 3-and-out, so they cleaned that part up because that was an issue. Last week that was an issue. They had a bunch of 3-and-outs in the first half. They had 1 the entire game that they had to punt on. And so, they had a 42% touchdown rate on their drives, right? So overall, the offense did what they were supposed to do. Yeah. They only punted the ball twice in this entire game. So good stuff.
Would have liked seen better, but it got the job.
Of course.
Done.
Yeah.
Before we have to say that was an absolutely garbage officiating crew. And it wasn't like a lot of people saying like, anti Notre Dame. I didn't think they were anti Notre Dame. I thought they were terrible. They had a really bad spot on, I thought, 2 runs by Notre Dame where they gave Notre Dame much better spots than they should have.
Yep.
But some like the decision to not call the pass interference on Rico Flores, like you picked the flag up, like just missed they called more holdings than I've seen in a long time, but missed 10 more,
they call the pass interference on Notre Dame when the kid literally fell over. Like there was no pass interference there in the end zone.
The one on Jaden Mickey?
Yes. The kid fell over.
Terrible.
I mean, terrible. What are we doing?
Terrible. And then Blake Fisher gets called for holding and then does the exact same thing on the very next play. No call.
No call.
The whole review of the review. I didn't even know this was
what is that? How
you reviewed a play, got it wrong, and then you reviewed it again? Like, is there like a second set of reviewers, fact checkers of the fact checkers that we don't know about?
He made the announcement.
Made the review. Yes. Announced what happened. I don't know if it showed up on TV. I don't know if you guys know what we're talking about. It was on the 3rd and 2 that there was a play before Audrick's first or only touchdown run. They ran a 3rd and 2. He didn't get anywhere close to the first down. They got the call right in the end.
Eventually.
But they marked it wrong at first.
Correct.
Then they reviewed it, got it wrong. And now what I think happened, Vince, is what I think happened is I think the first review, they got the spot correct.
Okay.
Right? Or they got that
they moved the ball. They did,
but then they called it a first down.
Right.
And I wonder if the second review was to make sure that they got the down and distance in the spot, all that stuff right. They said, but here's the thing that makes me say like that would make sense. Like I've seen that before.
Sure.
But then why did he announce that the call on the field is upheld? Because if the call on the field is upheld, then it would have been a first down and the ball. It was just the weirdest thing. This was such if someone at Notre Dame is not raising holy hell with the ACC right now, because again, guys, it wasn't a biased Notre Dame against Notre Dame officiating crew. There were some calls that hurt Notre Dame. I'm just telling you, watching it live, it was a bad crew, period.
Yes.
Just period. Like they lost 5 seconds because Marcus Freeman could not get the freaking officials' attention trying to call a timeout late in the second quarter.
Right.
Like that's your job. You should be looking. Is the head coach going to call a timeout?
Right.
And Freeman's like going like I thought Freeman was going to run out and stun him. Like that's what I thought was going to happen. I thought he was going to spear him like Goldberg or something. Like he was so pissed because he's like, and they were ignoring him.
Right.
Because the official was way out on the field. It's like no game awareness, no situational awareness whatsoever by the officiating. It was a terrible crew. And if somebody from Notre Dame, if Jack Swarbrick is not on the phone with the ACC saying, I'm sick of you sending us these crap officiating crews, then they're just not doing this right. Because I don't know, like, do they sound like they're JV teams? You know, like, there's been some good officiating crews from the ACC, but this one that did this game today was one of the worst crews I've ever seen. And it was all around. It was they were just sucked, period. I think it hurt Notre Dame probably more of the ones that were pulled up, but both teams caught the bad end of just a terrible officiating today. Just terrible officiating.
I mean, there was one time he put time back on the clock. He told the booth, okay, put 46 seconds on the clock, and then they ran a play. It said 44, and he's like, clock never started. Put it down to 40. What? Like, you just said to put it to 46. If I'm remembering it right, that like, and I look over at Sean, and I didn't even say anything. He just looks at me and he goes, yeah, I'm pretty sure they're just making it up as they go. Like, it was that. I'm telling you, I go to a lot of high school games, Brian, and officiating isn't great. I've seen high school officiating crews do a markedly better job than what I saw today. And again, it wasn't just against Notre Dame. It was just,
I still don't know how that quarterback wasn't in on that second down run near the goal line. I still don't know how he wasn't in. Like, I thought he was in. And even watching the review, I could be wrong. I thought he was in.
It was a touchdown.
They were terrible. I mean,
it was a touchdown.
And terrible officiating crew. Terrible officiating crew.
Yep.
So anyway, that's going to do it for the offense, Vince. Before we head over to the defense, folks, do us a favor. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, share this podcast. And if you have not done so, I'm telling you, you guys are missing out. Sign up for the message boards at boardsbreakdown.com. I'm telling you, there's some great stuff over there. You're going to enjoy it.
There's some great people over there, too. If you haven't been on the board and seen who the great people are that are on the board, like, they're hanging out with important people. I mean, these are important people. Just saying.
That's a message board only secret.
Just saying. That's all I'm saying. They're important people. They're hanging out.
Let's dive into the defensive performance, Vince, and this is going to be a little less positive than the offensive side. Because the offense was like, they did a lot of good things today. But there's just some stuff to clean up, right? Like, I thought overall, look, 41 points, 578 yards of offense. You ran the ball well. You ran for 236. You passed for 342 because Steve Angeli got in and was able to throw the football. And how is that not pass interference? I mean, first, no, I'm going to take that back because Rico needs to play that ball better. So I'm going to take that one back. But defensively, Vince, you played a bad offense that didn't have their starting quarterback, who we said all week was their only good player.
Correct.
And you made them look good. You made them look like they may go into the MAC and do some things. And look, I know they didn't have Gabriel Rubio in the game, which they haven't had him since the opener. They didn't have JD Bertrand in the game. And we see people now. This is why we say JD so important. And then we didn't see DJ Brown today because he was dealing with, I think Coach Freeman said afterwards, like a tight hamstring. So you're down, you're down a starter and two key backups, or you could say, DJ starter, depends each week. They've started different guys, but it just depends on like personnel matchups. But DJ's basically a starter who was coming off one of the best games of his career against NC State. And, he doesn't play. So, obviously that was problematic, but this is still a really bad Central Michigan team who didn't have their starting quarterback, who was their only real weapon.
Correct.
They don't run the ball very well. You made them look a lot better running the football. Their two tailbacks ran for 115 yards on 21 carries, averaged over 5 yards a play. There were so many issues with today's game, Vince. Missed tackles were a hot mess. So many missed tackles in the game. Early on, it was very obvious that Central Michigan had scouted Notre Dame very well, because the interior of the defense was very soft. And what I'm referring to soft, I'm not saying the players were soft. Coaches will use to talk about soft spots, right? Find when we're running this particular play, find the soft spot. The soft spot is basically where we think there's an opening or where there's a leverage where we can kind of hit that, and they were hitting that nonstop. In fact, there were times where they ran a couple jet sweeps and Notre Dame blew up, and you and I are like, why the freaking heck would they run that? Because Notre Dame has not stopped them on an inside run like in 15 minutes. And there was a lot of that. There was a lot of bad gap fits, and it all boils down to two things for me. Number one, You had a defensive coordinator that instead of saying, hey, we're down our Mike linebacker, we're going to get this young kid some chance to play. We're going to go out there. We're going to trust our guys. We're going to rely on our defensive talent, and we're just going to shut this thing down. He said, let me continue to run an overly complex defense against Central freaking Michigan, bring a bunch of safety fires and nickel fires and all that kind of stuff. And some of them worked, some of them didn't. But because you wanted to do that, you had to play Jack freaking Kaiser at Mike. And this is not at all a negative against Jack Kaiser. Jack Kaiser has no business playing middle linebacker.
He's not a middle linebacker.
Now, look, did he do some good things today? Absolutely, he did some good things today. Had some big problems today, too.
His stat line was actually really good.
But here's the problem, Vince. Here's the problem. You're not putting him at middle linebacker next week if you want to have any chance of holding Ohio State under 30. Right? So why would you do it for this game? What if JD gets hurt again next week? What if JD gets called for targeting next week? And now you're going to put Jack Kaiser, who's barely 220 pounds, at middle linebacker? You're Rover at middle linebacker? This was a great chance to get Drake Bone in when some opportunities. And when Marcus Freeman said, hey, we're going to start Drake and Mike linebacker, I was shocked because I was like, I just assumed they were going to play Jack Kaiser because that's who Al Golden is. He wants to run an overly complex defense to show everyone in the world how smart he is, so he can show NFL teams how smart he is. And because he is really smart. But there, as what we saw today, Vince, was exactly what I've always warned about with coaches like Al Golden, who are really smart football guys, is in college, there comes a point in time where you're getting negative returns. You know, there's a point of where what's the phrase I use, Vince? I'm drawing a blank here, but like where there's a point of diminishing returns where you get there and it's like, okay, now you're doing too much and they can't play clean. And we saw like holes opening up. We haven't seen that really this year. This looked like a game from last year where just these holes are opening up against a team that's not that good. And it came down to because you were trying to show everyone on the planet how smart you are. Instead of saying, this is a great chance for us to get Drake Bone and Jaden Osbury some reps as starters. Well, if you're going to do that, that means you can't run a million checks.
Right.
And a million pressures and blitz from all over the field. And the fact is your pressures didn't really hit home a ton. And so you missed you missed that opportunity. You missed the opportunity to turn your D line loose. You're just asking Donovan Heinisch, who's 285 pounds, and Howard Cross, who's 285 pounds, to eat up space inside. Why? Those offensive linemen for Central Michigan are not athletic enough to stop Donovan Heinisch and Howard Cross when they go vertical. And every time they were allowed to go vertical, guess what? Those two guys were in the backfield.
They did, yeah.
And so it's frustrating because on paper it makes sense. But when you look at who you have and you look at the fact that you're missing J.D. Bertrand and you're missing D.J. Brown and you're missing Gabriel Rubio, it's like, why? Why? And so then you put your team in some bad spots. And let's be honest, Vince, the numbers are going to look great. Because, what do you complain about? They gave up 17 points and 268 yards to a team that should have barely got to 200.
Right. They shouldn't have double digits.
And they had two good runs that were called back by penalties.
Yeah.
That I didn't think that they were legit holds, but they weren't holds that resulted in the play being big. Like it wasn't like, hey, if you don't hold that guy, you tackle him for a 2-yard gain. They were like backside holds. And so that was the big frustration for me because you saw defense for the first time all year, Vince, that was playing like a group that wasn't sure of what they were doing. They weren't always in the right place. And this is the issue that they had last year. And to see that in game 4, after not seeing game 3, is an indictment on the defensive coordinator because he is really smart. But when you don't have your captain and your 3-year starting Mike linebacker, you don't keep running the same defense you would have run if he was in the game. And the only way you can do that is because you put another smart veteran linebacker who doesn't play that position in the game.
He's smart enough to do it, but that's not his thing, man.
You've got 2 freshman studs at linebacker, and you can't get them in the field. I'm watching this Notre Dame offense go for 578 and 41 points, which was their worst performance of the season. And there's times they got 3 freshmen on the field at skill positions in the game. They're getting it done. Actually, you know what? They played 4 freshmen today because I forgot about Cooper Flanagan. They played 4 freshmen.
Yeah, just not at the same time. That's
the beginning of the game. 4 freshmen on offense.
Yep.
That was the best side of the ball. But you can't get Drake Bowen and Jaden Ausberry, your number 1 and 2 players in last year's class, on the field today. Like, and Drake got in there like a couple series, there's like when CMU would go to certain looks, they would put Drake in the game.
He was in at middle linebacker at one point, and they bumped Jack to Will, and he got absolutely pancaked. Now,
who did, Jack or Drake?
Drake.
Yeah.
Now, that's the only one play I saw, because he didn't.
That didn't happen on the other plays he was in. But you've got to get that kid into the game, Vince. I don't care if he got pancaked on one play. That's going to happen.
Right.
He needs to be playing. He needs to be playing from the beginning. And to me, it's fine for you if you've got a guy like J.D. Bertrand that can get everybody lined up and all that stuff and still play at a high level. Great. But you didn't have him today. And you didn't do the adjustments you needed to do. You put somebody just said Van Gorder was smart too. I'm like, dude, who said that? I'm okay. Chill with your freaking negativity today. You've been doing it all freaking chat. Okay. All freaking chat. I'm tired of it. Chill out. Okay. In this particular case, it was a problem because you didn't have the personnel to do that, because you didn't have JD and you didn't adjust. And so to me, all the stuff we saw today, 100% coaching. 100% coaching. To me, 100%. The missed tackles, 100% coaching. The soft spots in the D line, 100% coaching to me today. And that was my frustration, because you did things you didn't need to do. Let your kids play. Simple as that. Let them go play. And they didn't do that. It was about, let me show everyone how smart I am. Why are you trying to outsmart Central Michigan, Vince?
Right.
Why? Especially, and here's the thing, with the yards they had a better performance. Like, Notre Dame didn't even do as good as Michigan State did against them. They only scored 7 points against Michigan State. They only had, 219 total yards of offense. They had 3.3 yards per play. Against Notre Dame today, they had 268 yards of offense and had 5.0 yards per play. Michigan State right now, for the record, is losing in the fourth quarter to Washington at home, 41-7. Just for the record. Michael Penix currently has 473 yards passing in the game, and they've rushed for 100. I'm sorry. Yes, and they have given up 689 yards of offense today to Washington. That defense did better against Central Michigan than you did, and you didn't even face their starting quarterback. So I was very frustrated today, Vince. And I've been praising Al Golden the first 3 games.
Sure.
And he did some good things, but we called this before the game. We said, turn these guys loose. Be disciplined. Don't try to go show everyone how smart you are. This is the perfect game for that. And he didn't do it. Because, here's the problem, Vince. If the blitzes are hitting home, great. If they're not, Marcus Freeman talked about this in the postgame show. He's like, we brought a 6-man pressure and it didn't get home. I can't put that on the DBs, but that happens too much. And when you blitz that often, there's going to be more plays where those are there, and Central Michigan gassed you with it. What's going to happen when you do that crap against Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka and Kate Stover and Chip Tranum and Travion Henderson and those guys? And you've got Kyle McCord, a quarterback, not the backup quarterback at Central frickin' Michigan. You know what I mean? So that was my big issue today, man. It's just like, dude, this is on you. This is 100% on you today. 100% on you. And I just have no faith that it's going to change. And so it makes me a little bit nervous about some of the games coming up when they've got a quarterback that's a lot more dynamic than the kid they saw today. A lot more dynamic than the kid they saw today.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I'll tell you something else. If they weren't freaking phenomenal at corner, it would have hurt him even more today. Right. But Notre Dame's corners, and we'll get into that in a second, but they were phenomenal today.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Vince, that was my long rant. You have some thoughts on this particular situation?
I mean, I'm not going to rehash everything that you just said because that's silly, but I will say from a big picture standpoint, tackling has to be better. Outside of scheme and outside of the soft areas and everything that you mentioned, which is all true, no doubt about it. there were plenty of times where Notre Dame was in position to make the play and didn't. That's a big problem for me. And, whether that's you practice differently, whether you just have to execute, whatever the case may be, they have to tackle better.
Yeah.
Period. Because honestly, if they tackle better, it'll mask some of the issues that were very obvious in this game.
But you can't tackle better when you're doing so much that you're not always certain of where you need to be, and you're moving around so
Fair
much
enough.
pre-snap and all that other kind of stuff. To me,
Fair enough.
that's why I say, Vince, those two things to me go hand in hand.
Okay.
In my opinion. So you're 100% correct. 100% correct. But this isn't the first game tackling has been an issue.
Yeah.
It's an issue against Tennessee State. It's an issue last week. So, at what point to say, hey, guys, maybe we should scale back a little bit on the volume of what we're doing schematically and focus a little bit more on, I don't know, tackling better.
Yeah, just some fundamental stuff. Yeah.
Because you've yet to play. Here's the thing, Vince. They've yet to play good offense. I know the numbers are going to look great, and, they're holding teams. So what were they at? They were at so they've given up 47 points in 4 games, and it's 11.8 points per game. And you're like, dude, they're barely giving over 200 yards a game. And I'm like, that's all true. But this is why I've always said it's about the process, not the result, because the result can lie to you sometimes. You say, what do you mean it can lie to me? When you're giving up 11.8 points per game and you've yet to play a good offense, that's going to mask, and you've got way better players, that's going to hide your numbers to a degree.
Sure.
Because eventually you're going to play a team that is more on your level talent-wise. That's going to happen multiple times in the next month.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so at some point in time, you got to say, this isn't about me showing you how smart I am. I've got to make sure that I allow my players to be dudes as well. And, it just that was my frustration, Vince, because what you said, Vince, is spot on. You got to tackle better. But as you know, being a great tackler is a lot of times about being in the right position.
Sure.
And when there's so much on your plate in that regard, it's hard to consistently be in good position.
I would say it's about being in good position, which is absolutely part of it, but it's also about confidence. And if you're not playing with confidence, and a lot of that has to do with being in good position and knowing where you're supposed to be and coming downhill with confidence, right? As opposed to, oh, man, I hope I'm doing the right thing here. You have to be able to tackle with confidence. I tell my kid that all the time. He's a freaking kicker. And I'm like, dude, you're going to be one-on-one in the open field. I said, go at him with confidence, because there's all kinds of times where kickers don't do that and they get stiff-armed or they get juked. Go in there with confidence, right? That's what I've coached defenders my whole career as a coach. Tackle with confidence, man. Yep. And if their mind is going a million miles an hour, they're not going to be tackling with confidence because they're not going to have it.
Right.
So I think that's a big part of it too.
Yep. So, Vince, that was the downside. Defensive line-wise, I'm going to have to watch the film a little bit more to kind of get into really seeing what they did. So I don't have guys flash. I thought second half, Jason Onye was noticeable a lot in the second half. Some really good plays. I thought Howard Cross flashed. Riley Mills had a couple really good plays. But as far as just what they did on a snap-to-snap basis, so as I said before, I watched the back end and the outside live and then go back and watch, because you always know you're going to get the line play on the TV copy. So I'll watch that until the All-22 is up, and then I'll watch that. But that was kind of my thing is, I don't know where some of those issues were coming from specifically. I just know that those were issues. And a lot of times, because Notre Dame is moving around so much right before the snap, and it's like seeing CMU kind of just like they would wait for Notre Dame to stunt and then snap the ball and go. Like they had them schemed up pretty well. And we talked about this last week. They got veteran coaches over there.
Sure.
You got Paul Petrino's their offensive coordinator. That's Bobby Petrino's brother, who's been with him for a lot of years. He's been around. Rob Akey on defense, and Jim McElwain obviously was the offensive coordinator at Alabama. They won their first 2 titles, right? So I mean, you've got guys that know what they're doing over there, and they took advantage of it, and they did what they needed to do. So I just, those 2 areas to me, Vince, were problems. I have to break it down again, like I said, but I thought Maris had another very good game.
Yes.
I
He
thought
was
he played
flying to
very
the
well. His
football.
open field tackle on that one,
Yes,
I
where he
think they
came
settled for a
downhill.
field goal on that drive, didn't they?
I don't remember, but it was him and only him that made that play. I mean, he scraped right off the edge, came down hard and fast, and took that kid down. I'm pretty sure it was for a loss as well. I assume he had a tackle for loss. I haven't looked, but that was
They ended up
awesome.
kicking a field goal on that drive, Vince.
Okay.
It was that really long drive.
Yeah.
So he had an incomplete on play number 1. Donovan Heinisch had a pressure, short run, crossing route for 7 where Xavier Watts hit the guy. That was on Xavier. That one was on Xavier. He hits the guy instead of wrapping up, lets the guy bounce off and get a couple extra yards. So instead of it being 4th and 3 or 4, it's 4th and 1. They go for it and get it. They had a scramble and they had a holding penalty. Then they ran an over route the next play and converted the first down. I think that was a play where Jack doesn't get up underneath the deep route. Did a bad job there. 6-yard gain there. Stretch run. Bootleg incomplete. Stretch run for 3. Then they ran a crossing route for 9 where Clarence Lewis did a really bad job on handling the mesh a couple times in this game. Jack Kaiser turned the guy loose on a mesh. He had some issues on that regard. So they converted a 4th and 1. They converted a 1st and 20. They converted a 3rd and 7. Then they got the ball 1st and goal at the 6. They ran a boot slide where Jalen Sneed was one. He was really up and down in this game. That was, to me, his best play. Read the boot perfectly, forced an incompletion. They ran power read the next play, and they handed off in the jet. And Maris, that's the one you're talking about, Ben. So that was a scenario. And then the next play, they ran a corner route on Benjamin Morrison and Javante Jean-Baptiste, who I thought had a really good game. That's one guy that I felt like from beginning to end played really well. He had a pressure, allowed Benjamin to break the pass up. But that was a great moment because it was 28-14. If they score there, right now all of a sudden it's late 3rd quarter and it's 28-21. But the defense, I'll say this, held in. And that's one of the positives, Vince, is that they were able to stop it there because, again, red zone defense has been an issue for this team in the past. It's gotten better this year. It wasn't great today. It got better today, but that was a good stop. But that play by Maris, to me, made it. Because you put them in a situation where even if they gain 3 yards in that play, they're still in run pass, a 3rd down run pass situation where they can run or pass.
Right.
By him stopping that guy behind the line of scrimmage, it put them in a you got to pass now situation. It was a great play. Great play. He had a couple. I thought he had a missed tackle, but it ended up being Ramon Henderson on one of those. It was on a safety blitz. Yeah. But I thought he played well.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll say it. I mean, 4 games in, he's played 4 good games. I mean, I don't remember a game where you know what I'm saying? Like, can we officially say the light has been on? Maybe after next week.
Well, I want to wait till we see them play a really good offense, but I'm very encouraged.
Okay, good.
Very encouraged by the consistency with which Maris has played.
Yes.
And today too meant something, Vince, because he didn't have JD to get him lined up.
That's a good point.
This was all Maris.
And there was when Jack went out with a shoulder, he was kind of playing with his shoulder. They put Maris at middle linebacker.
Like if I'm
interesting
Drake
choice.
Bowen, I'm not happy now. I'm like, that's how little faith you have in me. You don't trust me to play against Central freaking Michigan.
You put 2 guys out of position into my position.
Right.
So, and I would be like, your depth chart clearly means nothing because it says I'm behind JD and yet I was 4th altogether,
Forced 2 more fumbles, which was good in this game. They've had now 7 in 4 games, but they have yet to recover 1.
That's frustrating as all get out right there.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I realize some of it's luck as far as like recovering and stuff like that, but man, I wish they would recover 1.
Speaking of play, I thought Thomas Harper played really well today. He had a missed tackle on the first play of the game to let them get extra yards, but then he settled in pretty well after that. I thought Thomas Harper was pretty good today. I mean, there were some good performances. Like, again, Donovan Heinisch, when they let him attack, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? The issue is like, why are you asking him to, like, eat up space and for a linebacker to run through? He's closer to the than the linebackers are, and he's more athletic than the guards at Central Michigan. Let him go eat a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's a bit of a frustrating thing. But overall, Vince, I thought it's just hard for me to say a whole lot about the defensive players because I feel like they weren't put in a great position. Like Jack Kyle had some really big mistakes today. He also made some really good plays. He had the sack where he forced the ball, the lateral.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, but you put him in positions where you shouldn't have been asking him to do those things. Right.
His stat line ended up being pretty good. I think he led the team in tackles.
10 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, was on the sack, had a forced fumble. That all came on the same play.
But still, I mean, like I said, his stat line looks good. I mean, we all know otherwise. But again, is that his fault? He's not a middle linebacker, folks. I think he was a middle linebacker in high school at a 1A level in Indiana. Okay, you can play middle linebacker there. He's not a middle linebacker at Notre Dame. That's okay. There's other linebacking spots where he is really good. So that is absolutely the frustrating part for me.
Yeah, absolutely. There were some good moments too, Vince. Like we said, personnel-wise, I thought the corners were really good. Cam Hart was excellent today.
Yeah, baby.
Even caught a pass apparently. Today,
I mean,
as well. So
got my members only jacket right here, ready to go. Just gonna throw it on. Cam Hart had a day, folks.
Yeah. No, but in all seriousness, Cam was very good today. Very tight in coverage. They tried to go at him several times in short stuff. Like he has been. I would imagine if you're watching at home, you probably haven't heard a lot about Cam Hart so far this year.
There's a reason.
Because like they don't go at him, and then the few times they do, it's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have done that. And he was good today. Benjamin was solid. I thought Jaden Mickey was really good outside the pass interference, which wasn't very questionable.
Yeah.
Safety play, look, I thought Adon Schuler played well late when he got in. He was pretty rangy. Xavier Watts was really up and down today. I got to study the film a little bit more, Vince, because there's a couple times where Xavier made some really good plays, and other time, like he had the bass break up on the slant. He jumped that slant. He's very active coming downhill.
Which was interesting because and they kind of showed this on the TV copy, but he was there, and the quarterback kind of pump faked him to see if he would go up, and he kind of did one of these, and then the quarterback said, well, I got to throw it. So he throws it, and he still goes up and bats it down. It's like he was playing games with the quarterback. Like, that's an athlete, right?
That was good to see. That was good to see.
Yeah.
But so there were some good individual performances today, Vince. I just was frustrated that they should have dominated. They should have dominated Central Michigan. I'm sorry, especially without their quarterback. And and that was just that was very frustrating. I mean, they've given up 18 tackles for loss in 2 games this year, Vince. And you got 4 against them. Right. Like that I'm sorry, that's a problem. Look, New Hampshire had 8. You had 4. When you're blitzing that much and you're consistently getting this few tackles for loss in a game, there's something missing here. Now, again, the numbers look great. And I know some of you are going to be upset, and there's going to be people that watch this later. Oh, you're always so dang negative, whatever. The fact of the matter is, this goes back to, like, I remember 2009. I caught the same heat when Notre Dame beat Nevada, was it 31-0 or something like that? I'm like, guys, they caught a lot of breaks. Nevada dropped 8 balls. Like, you can't do that against good teams. And the next week, Tate Forcier just torches them. So it's just one of those things where, and people say D-line is overrated. That's nonsense. How do you even know? How do you know if the D-line is overrated? They're not being allowed to do what they're good at doing. So it's just some really rough takes right now. But to me, this comes down to, you're seeing a defensive coordinator who's very smart. Schematically, the stuff he does is I understand what he's trying to do, Vince. But the issue is you're not playing to the strengths of your players. If someday, if you want to be at Notre Dame long enough, go recruit a bunch of 300-pounders and 320-pounders and just do that, right? Like, you're trying to use your D line the way Georgia does, because who else doesn't get a lot of tackles for loss? Georgia. But they're a 3-4 defense that that's what they do. You're not them. You have an undersized linebacking core and an undersized defensive line for what you're trying to do. It's not an undersized defensive line overall. It's just undersized for what you're trying to do. You're trying to ask them to be something that they're not. And then people are shocked when they're not, lighting the world on fire. Well, this was the game that you had a chance to do that, and they didn't do it. And that's the problem. Again, it goes back to, it's too scheme driven and not enough personnel driven.
Sure.
And that's my problem. And, somebody just said Georgia also has 2,000 teachers. You're kind of missing the point. That's the point. Georgia plays to the strengths of their players. So when they don't get a million tackles for loss, it doesn't matter because that's not what they're doing defensively. They're not trying to generate. They're giving you nothing. You're going for 0, 1, -1. You're not getting – it's not a defense designed to create negatives. So when you look at Georgia and you see that they're not a really good tackle for loss team, it doesn't matter because that's not what their defense is designed to do. It's not a defense designed to be super disruptive and crazy. They don't blitz a million times because, again, their defense is not designed for that. This is a defense that when you're blitzing as much as they're blitzing and you're doing things they're doing, you should be getting a lot of negatives. It's very much what Clemson does. Clemson is a very aggressive, attacking with their linebackers defense, and they're always like in the top 10 every year in tackles for loss. Right now, Notre Dame's on pace to finish in the 100s in tackles for loss. Yep. When you're blitzing this much and you're just not getting the disruptive plays, that's the problem. Georgia doesn't coach to that. That's the point. So if you want to beat Georgia, then go out and recruit a bunch of 300-pounders, and then you can run that defense. But right now, you don't have that. You have a 6'1", 280-pound, really athletic nose guard who can't be blocked when you turn him loose. So turn him loose. And when you do, he's very good. And that's the problem. So that's kind of my frustration, man. And that's where I'm at with this whole thing.
Game balls? Want to hand some out?
Yeah. Who gets your game ball on defense, Vince?
Corners. Hart and Morrison. I was really impressed with them when their quarterback had a chance to get rid of the ball, and if he went to either one of those two guys, it just was not getting completed. I mean, I thought that they played very, very well. I thought they played also well in the run game when they had opportunities. They turned some stuff inside. They played well. They played really, really well. I think a lot of the stuff that got completed was more on the safeties than it was on the corners. So I feel like I'm hoping I'm giving these two the game ball next week. Let's put it that way. that's where I'll be. But they had a really good game going into next week.
I'm giving it to Jack Kaiser because yes, he had some mistakes and he had some misses, but you know what? He answered the bell. He was put in a position that he's not
fair enough.
Shouldn't be playing.
Yeah.
He was asked to fill in for a captain who gets everybody set up. He was not put in a situation today where they were playing to his talent. But you know what? Jack played his butt off. Yes, there was mistakes and things that have to get better. But it's like, why? I'm not getting mad at him for doing that because you shouldn't have been asking him to do that. But you know what the kid did though, Vince, is he played his tail off. He was productive. And he answered the bell. Your captain goes down. Jack answered the bell.
Yeah.
No, he didn't always play great, but there you go.
Yeah. No, there you go. I will say I'm a little surprised, but I see where you're coming from, and I would expect nothing less from Jack Kaiser because that's the kind of player that he is, right? I mean, that's why he's a player at Notre Dame. I mean, you know what I mean? Like he has played ahead of his skis his whole career and, his whole high school career, his whole college career. It's why he is where he's at. And so I would expect nothing less. I would just hope that the staff kind of looks at this whole thing and be like, okay, let's not do that to Jack again. Let's use Jack to his ability and where he can really help us because he can be a really big part of what this defense is, but not if we don't put him in the best position to succeed. And that by far is the number one responsibility of a coach when we're talking about on the field stuff, right? I'm not talking about, development and, turning them into men, all that stuff. I'm talking about on the field X's and O's. Your job is to put your guys in the best position to be successful. They didn't do that today with Jack.
Right.
It's disappointing.
Agree. But he gets my game ball because Jack didn't say boo.
No.
He went out there and played his tail off. He's a 220-pound player who's a rover primarily, and he got stuck at Mike linebacker. But you know what? He answered the bell, and I got a lot of respect for that. So my beef is not so much with Jack. It's why are you asking him to do that is more my complaint with it. But he answered the bell, and he
Yeah.
stepped up and made some plays today and played his butt off. And so I'm giving him love for that. I'm giving him game ball for that. You know what I mean? Because game ball isn't always like who's your best player. It's just kind of like who's the guy that just stepped up today and do what he needed to do. Again, Onye flashed. I thought Thomas Harper had a good game. I thought the corners played great. I got no beef with you giving him that. I had a lot of respect for what Jack Kaiser did today, even though, you know, the things I was critical of, those aren't necessarily about Jack. They're about why are you asking Jack to do those type of things. So that's kind of where I'm at.
You want to talk any special teams?
Yeah.
Is there a point at this point to talk any special teams? 2 punts, 2 field goal attempts, 1 made, 1 missed. I mean,
missed the 59-yarder, didn't get
barely.
all of it. Yeah. I mean, but he didn't get all of it because we've seen him make
agreed.
Where it would have been good from 60 plus.
Yep.
And 59-yarder for a kid with this leg is not that, you know, not that. I was worried because they were all out there, and then the holder kind of comes running in late, and I was a little like, oh, you know.
Yeah.
But that was frustrating. They shouldn't have been there because Holden's got to catch that ball.
He's got to catch it. Yep.
Yeah. And there was a couple times I thought Chris Tyree should have come up and fielded punts that he didn't, and then let it roll, you know, a couple times. And, you know, so, but special teams has just been okay this year.
Yeah.
Vince.
Nothing special.
Have they even come close to blocking a punt this year? I don't think so.
They've had some hands in there, but like,
but that's just more getting to that line of guys and getting a hand up as opposed to actually maybe blocking it. So I just no creativity in that regard to like way Brian Mason was. And it's like, that's fine. But if you're going to do that, you better be really good at the other. If you're not going to do that, then you better be really good at the other stuff.
Right.
And we just haven't seen that, by the way.
Right.
So yeah, that's it. That's it for that part, Vince.
That's fair. Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, that's it. So we do have some super chats. I want to answer those. If you guys have any more, you know, any others super chats you want to get in there, go ahead and get those. But man, we'll talk a couple games going on, Vince. If you want to, when we're done the super chats, maybe talk about a couple games going on. So first of all, from Fort Wayne Irish, thank you very much. Fort Wayne Irish, sloppy, imperfect. Yes, but this team is deep, does not quit for 4 quarters and scores a lot of points. We're headed in the right direction. So that's something I'm glad he said that because for all my beef with today's game, Vince, and the fact that they were very clearly overlooking Central Michigan, but it wasn't overlooking the same way that the 28 team overlooked Ball State and Vanderbilt. Were like, they just weren't
crisp. Like,
well, I mean, those games, like there just was no.
Those games.
Right.
Yeah, no.
Right. Like this team came out today and played hard.
Yeah.
They just weren't locked in.
Yeah.
Right. They weren't sharp. They weren't sound all the time. But there was never a moment where I was like, these guys are just going through the motions. There was never that. It was, oh, come on, man. You got to be more locked in than that. That's why you made that mistake. You're not locked in.
Right.
But there was never a moment where I sat there and said, Vince, man, these dudes are not bringing it today. They're not playing hard.
Right.
And that was the issue when they would play teams like that in the past. It was like, man, these guys are not bringing it today. They are so looking past this team the next week. They're not even trying. And that's how you play a 4-quarter game against Toledo or, you know, teams like that, where it's just like, you weren't even ready to play that day.
Yeah.
This team has yet to go out there in a game in 4 games where they haven't been the more physical. I mean, how many times do we see a Central Michigan kid limping off the field in today's game?
Yeah, lots.
Right?
I don't think there was a Notre Dame player down once.
Other than Sam Hartman.
5 or 6.
Yeah. Just
Central
the one on
Michigan
Sam Hartman.
that they had to like call time on and, you know, the whole thing.
What was one of the things we complained about with last year's team and the 2021 team, Vince? You and I have said this before. They weren't a real physical football team.
Right.
Like as a whole, there were certain players who were physical, but as a whole, they weren't a physical football team.
It wasn't part of their identity. Let's put it that way.
Not at all. That has not once been a complaint that I've had. Now, they haven't always played great and they have been perfect. And the nature of our show is we're former coaches. We're going to take a more critical view than just, hey, 41-17, it's all wonderful and everything. You know, that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, right.
But when you're encouraged as a coach, Vince, is like, yes, I mean, I'm frustrated that they're missing tackles and I'm frustrated with this. But never once did a guy miss a tackle because he didn't want the contact.
Right.
Not once did a guy miss a block because he's like, I don't want to really go toe-to-toe with this guy this time. You know, not once has a receiver not caught a ball because alligator arms, this guy's going to drill me. We haven't seen any of that from this team. This team is physical.
Yep.
They just got to play a little more crisp to play to their full potential. Because what's the standard we're evaluating on Notre Dame today? It's not, were you better than Central Michigan? Would today's performance have been good enough to beat NC State? Yeah. Would today's performance been good enough to beat Duke? Yeah. A lot closer than this one.
Sure. But
look, the way that Notre Dame played today, They beat Duke. They beat Louisville. They beat Pitt. They beat Syracuse. Sure. They beat Stanford.
Wake Forest.
Wake Forest. They beat Stanford. The question is, would today have been good enough to beat Ohio State if they bring their B+ to A game? Would it have been good enough to beat USC if they bring their B+ to A game? Would it have been good enough to bring? No, it's not, and that's the standard.
Sure.
But at no point in time have I said, boy, this team's just not playing hard.
Right.
They're just not locked in. That has not been an issue, and that's a really good thing and an important thing to his point, to the future of the program. That's a big takeaway from today, Vince.
Yep, completely agree. It's a rational statement, and it's also a great big picture statement of who this team is, and I think that's important.
I love this.
After 4 games, Todd, I think we are figuring that out. It's all right.
From Todd Brammy, he gave a couple super chats, and the second one said, let's just blame Ryan for the early struggles. Because when Ryan's been in attendance at games, the Notre Dame team hasn't always looked the greatest. But at least they won. But yes, right. I agree. We should all just blame Squirrel for that one.
I have no problem blaming Ryan. 0.
Yep. All right, Vince, you want to go ahead and take these over, man?
Yeah, absolutely. Josh Phillips, thank you for the super chat. 4-0, scored 40 points in all of them. No doubt about it. Did you give that stat to the people yet today? I know it was in the Gamer.
So. Okay. I believe so. It's 4 straight game with 40 points per game in the regular season in one season to start a season off, which ties the record that was set in 1900. And I talked about this during the week too, Vince. And so I love saying this. And so for the people who didn't hear this, so the last time Notre Dame scored at least 40 points in 4 straight games to start a season was 1900. That team beat Goshen High School, Englewood High School,
and Rick Meyer was not the quarterback at Goshen.
South Bend, Howard Park Club, and then Cincinnati. So they scored, was it 123, 187? I'm trying to do math in my head, and that's probably dumb. So I'm just going to get my calculator out real quick. Actually, I was on point so far. The first 4 games, they scored 244 points. You know how many they scored in the next 6 games, Vince?
It wasn't many because I remember you
16.
saying this earlier. Yeah. 16.
So 244 in the first 4 games because you played 2 high school teams and the club team. So whenever you do something that happened before most of our grandparents, well, actually all of our grandparents, that are under like 70 yourself, were born, that's impressive. It also set a record that if you actually go back to last season, it's the first time in any stretch of games that Notre Dame has had 5 straight games at least 40 points. And so I went all the way back to 1887 to look this up, and I'm pretty confident that this is accurate. It's the first time Notre Dame has had 5 straight games of over 40 points per game, which is impressive.
If we're putting it into perspective, right, most of the folks that fought in World War II are passing away, right? I mean, that's just where we're at, right? If you were born in 1900, not played at Notre Dame in 1900, but born in 1900, you were too old to fight in World War II.
Well, at least be on the front line, right?
That's right. The generals. And
those are the officers, right?
Like signing up, like in the moment.
Guys who were born in 1900, Vince, were fighting in World War I.
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
So, and those guys were 0 in 1900, not playing for Notre Dame. So there you go. That's how long ago that was. Just to put it in perspective.
Here's one for you, Vince. This is gonna blow your mind a little bit. The last time that Notre Dame started a season scoring 40 points or more in the first 4 games, Newt Rockne was 12.
There you go.
He was 12 years old.
There you go.
That's it.
Yeah.
So have some fun with that one.
Right.
So I mean, again, Josh, to your point, there's a lot to like about this team.
Yep.
And that's why some of the negativity at the beginning is like, guys, are we really asking if this is a top 10 football team? Like, are we going to go there? There's understandable frustration with certain things that you saw today. If your standard is, can we win a national championship playing this way? The answer is no. But as I also have pointed out, nobody does that every single week. Nobody. LSU 19 didn't do it. Clemson 2018 didn't do it. Bama 20, even that team didn't really do it. That was just a weird year because of COVID. That was probably the most convincing. Last time Ohio State won a national championship, Vince, they lost by 2 touchdowns at home in game 2 to freaking Virginia Tech, a team that went 7-6 that year. And we're complaining and saying this has to get better. about a team that's gone over 40 in each of his first 4 games.
Yeah, exactly.
And your down game, you went for 578 and 41 points, right? I mean, so there's a lot to like about, but the standard is this good enough to win a championship? And my whole point is this team has got that ability, Vince. I truly believe that. And that's why I got to keep cleaning that stuff up and keep making those improvements, because if you play your game, you can beat anybody. I truly believe that.
Yep.
And
so does Marcus Freeman. He's like, as long as Notre Dame doesn't beat Notre Dame, we're going to be a really scary team.
And he's absolutely right.
That's what he
That's
let
not
off
just
his
coach
press
speak
conference
either,
with.
Vince. That's absolutely facts.
100% accurate. Yes, completely agree with it. So that's the fun part about this team, guys, is right now they're sitting at 4-0, and we have not seen the best of this team.
And we're mad about back-to-back 21 and 24-point victories.
Right.
We got people questioning if this is really a top 10 team because they only outgained Central Michigan by 310 yards and beat them by 24 points. Right. I mean, yeah. I love this name, by the way.
Didn't cover, though, Brian.
I know.
All right. Shiver Me Fingers. Thanks for the super chat.
I love that name.
That's fantastic, actually. Makes me hungry. Like I want some chicken fingers. All right. Hoping y'all could compare, contrast strengths and weaknesses between Quinn, Clausen, and Hartman. Appreciate you guys getting me through the long nights with daughter number 3, just born a few weeks ago.
So, Vince, you know what that's like. Actually, you know what? You know what that was like, but 2 and 3 came at you right away, right?
At the same time. Yeah. At the same time. Had the double fisting, feeding. It was something else.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Why didn't one of y'all take one kid and the other take the other kid?
I'm trying to get, somebody had to work the next day.
Oh,
all right.
Good point. Good point. Brady Quinn and Sam Hartman are very different. If you want to compare the quarterbacks, like similarities, Clausen's a much closer comparison to Sam Hartman. Brady Quinn was big and physical, and how many times in 05 and 06 did wannabe sackers like just bounce off Brady? And I still remember the 05 throw to Jeff Samardzija on that post route where he's like a guy like hanging on him, and Brady just throws a post route. Samardzija makes that one-handed grab.
Right.
Brady was big. He was physical. He was a gamer. Brady wasn't always the most, super precise passer, but he knew where to go with the football. He had guts, and he'd try to fit balls in that you're just like, man, that was a gutsy throw, man. Like, Brady wasn't a sexy player, and his game was not sexy. He just was a winner. That's the best way to say it, Vince. And he got the ball where it needed to go. Jimmy was more of like that guy that was like, kind of created and, molded from birth to be a quarterback kind of thing, where he just had the motion that was compact and accurate. And he had as good a ball placement as I've ever seen as a quarter. Even still, with all due respect to Sam Hartman, Jimmy Clausen's ball placement was impeccable.
It was elite.
I mean, especially in 2009. And so, I mean, in Jimmy's his last year at Notre Dame, he was 3 years away from being where Sam Hartman is now, but they're very similar players. Jimmy was very immobile at Notre Dame because he battled foot injuries his sophomore and junior seasons. And as a junior, especially, Vince, he had a really bad foot injury that a lot of people don't know about that really made him immobile. But, man, he was, I mean, great decision maker, accurate, threw a great deep ball. I actually think Sam Hartman throws a better deep ball than Jimmy Clausen. That's saying a lot because Jimmy threw a nice deep ball, but Sam Hartman's deep ball, when he lets it rip, Vince, is an impressive thing. And I think Sam's got a little quicker release than Jimmy had. Definitely a quicker release than Jimmy had. Jimmy had a pretty quick release, but and when I say definitely, I don't mean like it was way faster. I mean, I'm definitely confident that it was faster than Jimmy's. So I think those two guys are very similar in a lot of ways as throwers, in my view, Vince. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% accurate with the Brady Quinn being big and tough and strong and, the whole thing. Somebody said, just like Tim Tebow, he's just a winner. You're selling a lot of these guys short because these guys are better throwers, all three of them, than what Tim
I would
Tebow
say
was.
is when you compare Brady and Tebow, if you're going to just talk like leadership and character and toughness and winning, then yes, that's a fair comparison, even though their styles are way different. I mean, but yes, in that regard, where it wasn't always sexy, but you just look down and you're like, that guy just put his team on his shoulders and won victory. Brady and Tebow had a lot of that in common in that regard. Yes. Their style of play was very different. Obviously, Brady was a passer. He wasn't, he was a chain mover as a runner, right? Where Tebow was he
moved when he had to.
Half the time, Tebow was a running back, basically, taking direct
Correct.
snaps at times. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So stylistically very different. But yes, the Tebow comparison, when you talk about character, the heart and soul of your team, the leader of your team,
Sure.
you always thought you had a chance to beat anybody because Brady was your quarterback. Same with Tebow at Florida. So in those regards, Vince, more of the bigger picture things, yeah, I think it's a fair comparison. I think it's a very, 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 very fair comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and somebody just said, I love this. I want to compare Sam. I want Sam to compare to Tony Rice and get a chip. So
Sign me up.
Yeah, that's ultimately what you want to be.
Sign me up. I'll help commission the statue.
Yeah. That would be the extent of where their comparisons go. What did Tony Rice and Sam Hartman have in common? They both won a championship. If that happened,
they both played at Notre Dame.
Yes, and they both played in Notre Dame.
Yeah,
yes, they're both from the Carolinas.
Oh,
Tony was from South Carolina. Sam from North Carolina.
Okay.
So yeah, it's interesting, Vince. The last 3 times Notre Dame played in a bowl game, that if you win a championship. The last 3 times, or the last 2 times, the quarterback was from one of the Carolinas, South Carolina, because Tony was from South Carolina. Notre Dame did not play in a bowl game where if they win, they're the champion, no matter what. And again, until 2012, and Everett Golson was the quarterback, South Carolina, and then now you've got Sam Hartman, who's the from North Carolina. So very interesting. I'm just saying, I'm just having some fun. Just having some fun, man. Just having some fun. I can't comment on this next one, Vince, because we didn't listen to the broadcast, but I'll just we'll thank him for it. And
Gregory Gilbert petition to get Garrett off Notre Dame games needs to be started. Like you said, I can't comment on this one, but in all the other games that I have listened to and watched with him, he's not the problem, folks. But I don't know. Maybe he said something stupid today.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought the Tennessee State. We'll just leave it at that. Yeah. Yeah. Leave it at that. All right, let's go to we got a super chat from Double R. Appreciate that very, very much. We got another one from him here we'll get to, because we got a couple that are going to be similar. He's got a couple so Double R, I see the 2 you got. We'll get to them about Tobias. We'll get to them. We're just kind of going in order right now. But
from Trash. That's great. Just Trash. Thank you for the super chat. Very much appreciated. Decent win. I have a sinking feeling that the odds will be specially stacked against us. Big Ten refs want Ohio State in the playoffs. In the review booth, we have an ACC crew who wants our streak snapped. Let's just get the job done. I think you're putting a lot of things in people's brains that may or may not exist. I don't think the ACC replay booth comes to games and I hope Notre Dame lose. I don't see that necessarily being the case. Now, they may not be very good at their job, but I don't think they come in with these ulterior motives like that. And is it going to be a Big Ten crew?
Well, the other thing too is it is. Yeah, Notre Dame. Okay. And that's why I'm a little bit more concerned about it. But Big Ten fans will tell you that Michigan State got screwed out of an undefeated season at Notre Dame Stadium by a Big Ten crew. Remember the 2013 game? They kept crying about the pass interference penalties. Well, they should have been crying. They were legit calls. Look, here's the thing. This isn't like Remember the Titans, right? This isn't the 1970s. I don't think you have a bunch of referees out there saying, we're purposely going to screw you over. Do I think that happens? I'd say that happens more in basketball in the NFL than I think it does in college football. But even in the NFL, I think it's more of a basketball thing, because one official can completely change a basketball game.
Sure.
What it comes down to is we're familiar with how this game is matched up. And so because of that, today we're going to call more holds because that's going to benefit this team over that team. And, or today we're not going to call a lot of holds because that's going to benefit this team over that team. Do I think that could happen? Yeah, I do think it could happen. I would just hope that people would have more integrity than that. But here's at the end of the day, Vince, don't leave it in their hands.
Right.
Don't leave it. Do what you need to do. Don't leave it in their hands, and then it won't be an issue.
Yep.
And it's that's where the Remember the Titans scene is great. It's where he's once the officials kind of get out of the way, it's
it's over.
Hey, run them up, leave no doubt. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and if anything, if you're the Big Ten right now, this is the best chance you've had to maybe convince Notre Dame to join your conference in a while. Do you really want to do something like that to screw them over on national TV? just call the game.
Right.
You know,
right. And we said this earlier. The refs today were not anti-Notre Dame.
They were
anti-good reffing. Like, they just weren't good on both sides. They were bad. They gave Notre Dame some favorable spots that they should not have done. They kept Central Michigan out of the end zone when they were in the end zone, and they reviewed it. Like, lots of mistakes here. It was not anti-Notre Dame. So we need to put that one to rest. They were just bad.
Vince, can I share a quote? So first of all, Sean Davis just texted me and said that apparently he was like messing some players' names up, Notre Dame players up right now.
Okay.
Can I tell you a quote my wife just gave me?
Sure.
She's listening to the show. She said, this is awesome, dude. She says, being smart isn't being wise. Said Golden is trying to show how smart he is, but isn't being wise and using his players to their strengths.
There you go. Put it on a shirt.
I love that woman.
Put it on a shirt.
But like, seriously though, that's a great way of putting it. But like, that's the thing is, this is going into this game. This is the first time I've really felt that if Notre Dame uses their players to the best of their ability, you can beat Ohio State. You don't need a bunch of things to go your way. You can be the better team. But it's close.
Yeah.
To where if you don't do that and Ohio State's coaches do, that's where you could see a difference. So, but that was a great quote by Ange. Like, seriously, she just texted me that. Like, I'm like, she has been listening. So.
I'm not even sure my wife knows I'm home. So there's the difference. Okay.
There you go. There you go. All right, let's go to the next one.
PA Irish guy, thank you very much for the super chat. Congratulations to Archer and the new baby.
Yeah,
is there a new Ohio State fan?
Yeah, Archer,
wow,
his wife.
Awesome.
I think it maybe like that's why he hadn't been in the chat last couple of weeks. He was.
Remember,
like leading into the season, he was really close. Like, it could be any day now.
That's
and all
right.
that. Yeah, Archer, definitely my man. Congratulations, buddy. Vince, I think he's getting close to you in number of kids. Archer, wow. I believe. I think. Is this 4 or 5, Archer? Let us know, man. Let us
saying
know.
Something right there, man.
Yeah, I think he's trying to be Vince. He's trying to be Vince.
Man, don't ever emulate me on that one.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So let's get to the next one from Mike Huff.
All right, Mike. Thank you so much for the super chat, guys. How do we solve the officiating? That was a sideshow out there. Embarrassing. You're not wrong. You can't solve it. You just got to take it out of their hands.
Here's what you can do, though. I mean, there are things there are things coaches do after games that allow you to send complaints to the officiating, to the league.
Yeah.
So what you do is you there's like, I think it's still like this. It's probably digital now, Vince. But like when I was coaching, you'd get this thing from the NCAA or from the league. And it was like you fill out this play, and then you'd send them the cut-ups. Like, so I'd have to get the video guys. Early in my career, I was the one doing it, and then when I was later in my career, like when I was at CNU, I had like 5 different. I was the receivers coach, pass game coordinator, recruiting coordinator, video coordinator.
At those low levels, man, you wear a lot of hats.
Yeah, I didn't get paid per job either. Man, per title either. Administrative or assistant head coach. All that stuff. But anyway. But you send it to the league and you say, hey, look at these 10 calls, right? Or, hey, look at these 10 plays that were all blatant holds that impacted the game that they didn't call.
Yeah.
So there are things that you can do and you need to do, because if you don't complain about it the right way, in the not getting into a press conference and complaining about it. So like Marcus Freeman didn't say anything negative about officiating today. He was like, hey, look, we got to do, blah, 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 blah. Hey, and he even said like the refs, talked to my guys in the booth and they said they were holds.
Yeah.
That's the right thing to do publicly, because you're not going to shame them into calling better.
No.
You let yourself and Jack Swarbrick handle that the right way and the right channels behind the scenes. And you let them know this isn't okay. I don't want that crew ever doing another game for us.
Yep.
Right.
And you can do that at the high school level. Like, you can cancel crews and you can not hire certain crews. Like, I don't know how things are assigned, but guess what, guys? If you haven't noticed in the last couple of weeks, Notre Dame's got some pull with the ACC.
Right.
If they put their foot down and they're like, we're not going to have this crew again, guess what's going to happen? They're not going to get that crew again.
Now, to Ohio State game, there's nothing they can do because it's a Big Ten crew.
Right.
And so there's no recourse. But again, don't leave it in their hands.
Exactly.
Play the game the right way. Do what you got to do, don't leave it in their hands.
Andrew Gilmore, thanks for the super chat. Will Tommy Rees be the Alabama OC in 2024?
For his sake, I hope so.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
I didn't watch the game today, so I don't know. I
know
it was ugly and low scoring.
Torrential downpour at one point.
Yeah.
That weather delay. There was a lot going on there.
I didn't watch the game. I don't know what happened, but I hope so for his sake. And then there's a reminder of the super chat from Double R. So they had a couple ones here, Vince. This is one. I'm going to get to two from him. And he said that Tobias confidence going forward. And then he had another one, a bigger one, which we appreciate. Tobias mindset going forward. I think he is about to go off.
I hope you're right, man. I really do. I hope you're right because I think, Brian put it in perspective earlier. He dropped one ball, the first one thrown to him at the season. He's caught everything else that's come his way at this point. He's made 2 big plays. He's gotten into the end zone. He's blocking well. It would not surprise me if he was about to go off, and I would love every second of it because I am a big Tobias fan, and I think he has unwarranted grief sent his way by the average Notre Dame fan. So I hope he does go off.
Yeah, his last 3 catches have gone for 136 yards. 2 games, last 3 catches. So I'd say he's doing all right.
Yeah, he's doing all right too.
Yep. All right, Vince, got a few more here before we get up out of here.
Aideen Benami. I apologize if I butchered that, but thank you so much for the super chat. Is it next Saturday yet? Looking forward to IB this week. Where will the IB tailgate be next weekend? Appreciate all the work. Info, fellas. Go Irish.
So, dude, I feel your pain. I'm already kind of like tomorrow. I'm gonna Vince. Are we really doing upon further review? Dude, I just want to break down Ohio State, man. But we'll have upon further review. Tailgate next week. So the plan as of right now is we will have an Irish breakdown tailgate. Specifics of it, and if we're definitely going to do it, remain to be seen. I need to check in on my mom this weekend because my parents are going to come in town and do it. And as some of you know, my mom was in the hospital this week. If you know my mom at all, she's very stubborn. I definitely got that from her. I did not get that from my dad because she's more stubborn than he is, even though she does not want to hear that. She's probably not going to be happy with me saying that right now. So they have said that they still want to do it, but I just want to get to the weekend and see how she's feeling and just make sure that she still plans on being here. Now, if she's not here, we will still tailgate, but it'll be a much different looking tailgate. It'll have stuff that I buy at the store. If she's not here, if she's here, it's going to be all homemade stuff. I mean, she bought Rice Krispie treats that have like Notre Dame colors. She bought like M&Ms or Notre Dame colors. Like she's ready to rock and roll, man. But I just got to see, if she's going to be up for making that trip. So I've tried to tell them not to come, and I got laughed at. So, because my dad was like, yeah, you have good luck telling her that she can't come next week. And I was like, well, why do you think I'm telling you, Dad? You're her husband. I want you to tell her. He's like,
yeah, I want to tell her. This is your idea.
Nuts. How do you think I made it through 48 years of marriage alive? You know what I mean? So, but Archer did say also he tied you.
Oh, I was just going to star that one up. Yeah.
So
congratulations, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but we are going to have a tailgate. I will have more specifics as we get close to it. We'll be in the stadium lot somewhere. Just depends on, where I have a pass. I'm just not quite sure where it'll be, but it'll be in the stadium lot. I would like to get started sometime between noon and 2, sometime around there. It just depends on, when my mom and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I'll definitely let you guys know as we get closer, but we are definitely planning on doing some kind of tailgate next week. I'm just not quite sure when that's going to be, but I'll let you guys know for sure. And Archer did say tied Vince, baby was born yesterday, and it's our 5th. So congratulations, man. And he at least was able to spread them out a little bit, though.
I was going to say, I had 2 at the same time, so we only had 4 pregnancies. So you probably have me beat. I will say that. So yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. Yep. Very good. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. All right. Last couple, Vince. Here we go.
Joshua Board. Thank you very much. I like this team. They're good. Very good. Yep. How confident are you that these coordinators will play to their personnel versus their scheme to get the wins?
I think Jared Parker's done that. I don't necessarily love the excessive use of 12 and 13 last couple weeks, but when he's in those personnel groupings, he plays to what those guys do well.
Yep, agreed.
Right? Like, we're seeing the run game adjusting like it fits it. Not that Audric can't run duo. He does run duo well, but man, he just has a thing with like inside zone and power stuff that he can cut back and, like the toss and get him outside. Like we never saw Audric get a toss play last year, and he's run it well. So I think Jared Parker's done a really nice job playing to the strengths of his players. Now, I would say personal preference, I want to see more 11 personnel. I'd even like to see some 10 personnel. More of that. I would like to see more run game out of 11 personnel, Vince, and do some different things.
Yeah.
There are some things I'd like to see maybe Chris Tyree do a little bit to get him the football with some screens and stuff. But those are like some minor nitpicks, but he's not asking Chris Tyree to do things that Chris Tyree's not good at. He's using Tobias Fairweather is a long-legged, long-striding player, and everything that they're throwing at Tobias is kind of geared towards a long-striding type of guy. Jaden Thomas is more of a volume kind of guy. He hit a post route today, but it was a post route where we used other things to clear it out, but it's been comebacks and stops and quick posts in the red zone. So he's been playing to Jaden's strengths as well. So I actually think he's doing a pretty good job of playing to his players' strengths. I just don't always love the personnel decisions. Yeah. But within the personnel groups he's using, I've never been like, dude, why are you asking that kid to do that? Right? Like we kind of joked about the Jeremiah Love downhill thing, but you've got to use Jeremiah Love downhill. You can't only run him outside, and because then the people are going to figure it out. We're just kind of joking a little bit with that. But last week they got him outside, they got him in the game, and he's running buck sweep. And today they used him on pass routes and tried to get him the ball in those regards. Didn't he catch a pass like that was designed to him, like a screen or something that was designed to him, the one for like 10 yards today? Jeremiah?
Oh, yeah.
I thought so.
It was a swing to the offense's left.
Yeah, it was but it was a design swing.
Yes. Yeah. It was right, yeah.
So that's, so I think he's done a good job there. I think Al Golden does a good job of playing to the strengths of his secondary players. I just don't, we've talked about it for a few weeks, and it was especially obnoxious today. That was my big beef. Like, it was just, it was. But look, I'll say this again, though. If Al Golden gets the same exact performance from his defense this year against Ohio State that he got from his defense last year against Ohio State, Notre Dame will win this football game.
Yep.
Book it. If they're at 21 points and only 399 yards and under 6 yards of play, and they only score 21 points against Notre Dame next week, Notre Dame's going to win the football game.
I agree.
Now that's going to be harder because Ohio State didn't have any film of Al Golden last year in game one. They've got a lot more film of Al Golden now, right?
Call.
So, but
on the flip side, it was the first game that the Notre Dame players played with Al Golden as their as their defensive coordinator too.
Sure,
so,
So, but if you can see that again, Vince, I'll be a happy guy. I'll be a happy guy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no doubt about it. And then here's the last super chat before we talk about a couple of the games going on right now, Vince.
Connor Grant, thank you for the super chat. Is it normal for Notre Dame fans to sit the whole game? I was there today and standing, and a bunch was told too often to sit down. Thanks. Go Irish.
I have heard this complaint a lot. I've heard this a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean,
the answer is, honestly, the answer is yes, they sit down. Unless you're in the student section where they stand the entire time. And the student section takes up about a quarter of the stadium. The rest will stand up in big moments and things of that nature, but they're not going to be up the whole time. There's way too many older generation people to be standing up the entire time. It's just not going to happen.
Which I don't like. And some of those older generation people are the ones selling their tickets.
Yep.
To a bunch of Ohio State fans. I'm just preparing y'all right now. There's going to be a boatload of red in the stadium next week. Just get ready for it now. It's going to look like Christmas next week. It's going to be a lot of red and green in the stadium next week.
Mm-hmm.
But there's going to be a lot more red than most of you are going to be comfortable with, to be completely honest.
Are you prepared to put a number on it? A percentage?
No. I mean, I'm hoping that Notre Dame has done some things to quiet it, but I just have no faith that they've done that. I just don't think they care enough to do that. So, I mean, I'll be shocked if it's not at least 50%.
Wow.
Yeah.
You think there may be more red than green is what you're saying?
I think there's a chance. Yeah.
I mean, if you're putting it at 50, you know.
Yeah. I think there's a good chance. Yeah. I hope
thinking like 30.
I'm wrong. I mean, it was close to half when Cincinnati played Notre Dame in 2021, right?
I don't think it was half. No,
I said close to half. I've heard people say it was like about 40%. So I wasn't there. Remember, that was the year
that's
they were
right.
being stupid.
Yeah, there was way more than I thought were going to be there, but I don't know that it was that high. Yeah. I'd have to go back and look, but
I'd be very curious.
I mean,
it was definitely over 40% when Georgia came here in 2017.
No, that I agree with.
Their fan base isn't all within driving distance of South Bend.
Sure. No,
imagine how many Georgia fans would have been there if their entire fan base was within driving distance of Notre Dame. You know, so yeah, it's a little bit of a different animal than that one. Charlie Weiss's last belt loop said he had a super chat, but I did not see it. And all the super chats get automatically starred. So I'm just
automatically get starred.
Yeah, I just went through it, Charlie. I do not see that super chat, buddy. So yeah. But so Ray Holcraft said 30% max. I hope so. But here's the thing:
he has nothing to do with it.
This game's been sold out since the day it went on the market, right? So if any Notre Dame fans have sold their tickets, it's already happened. It had already happened before they played Navy in most instances. So I hope I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong I would love for it to be no more than 25, 30%. I would love that because that's going to be a lot of green. If it's only because here's the difference. Here's why it would be better. If it's no more than 30, here's why it's better. Because I think most Notre Dame fans are going to wear the green next week. I do because it is one of those wear a specific color type of thing.
And Notre Dame's wearing green too.
Right. Because what tends to happen with some of these games, Vince, is like Notre Dame fans wear all types of colors. The green,
white,
blue,
navy,
gold.
All of it.
Yeah. Orange because they're just wearing a shirt.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But there's all types of different colors where, like when you go to a Ohio State game, like everybody's got red on. Like that. It's just they all get
that's their color.
Right.
Yes.
And so because Notre Dame's doing the wear green thing, I think we are going to see more of a unified Notre Dame fan base from a color perspective, which will make it because like if it's like all mixed and you see this swath of red and then a bunch of other stuff,
it'll make it look
more red.
Correct.
But if it's like, when they're scanning it before the game and it's like 25-30% red and the rest is green, it'll be a pro Notre Dame crowd. I just don't have a lot of faith in that point. So Josh Board asks, to this point, who is your favorite player? I like me some Sam and Audric and et cetera. This team has dudes. Now, I don't have a favorite player. I don't really look at it that way, but I want to kind of say this, Vince, and thank you for the super chat, Joshua. And it kind of goes back to his previous super chat, Vince, is like, I really think that this team is really good. This team is really talented. And I'm still wanting to see, Vince, maybe just the receiving core to still step up and show that they have some dudes. I still think that's the only question mark that I have at this point in time do they have enough dudes in the pass game to beat Ohio State, to beat USC, to beat Clemson, to beat Georgia, to beat the best teams in the country? I think that's still a question.
Sure.
So,
I mean,
yeah,
I don't have any favorite players per se. I mean, I love me some Marcus Freeman. How about that? Like, yes, the players that are putting up the points, the players that are the stars, of course, they're all fun to root for. And, I bet there's nobody on this team I dislike. I can tell you that, I mean, at least up to this point. And even some of the ones that maybe I didn't really like a whole lot for some off the field stuff, they've started to grow on me. So I'm good to go with all the players that I'm aware of. And it's just fun to watch this team. It's just fun to watch this team, man. And but I'm not going out and buying anybody's jersey anytime soon.
Well, I just think the takeaway for me from his comment is that this is a team that has a lot more dudes than they've had in the past. That's
a lot of likable personalities too. And I think, and I'll shoot some love to
likable personalities don't win you football games.
Well, no,
that's kind of my. Yeah.
I agree with that, but I think Fighting Irish Media has done a good job of getting some of those personalities out.
Yes,
and you can see them.
They've done a much better job with that stuff this year. I still would have liked to see more in fall camp, but there's been some really cool stuff in that regard. They really have. They really have. But again, my point is, you can't win a championship without dudes. You can't win a championship without a bunch of 5-star players. My only argument has always been I don't care about high school 5 stars. I care about college 5 stars. Benjamin Morrison is a college 5-star player. Audric Estime so far this year, college 5-star player. Neither of them were top 100 recruits coming out of high school. Sam Hartman is one of the 5 best quarterbacks in college football right now. 5-star college player right now.
Yep.
3-star recruit. Joe Alt, best tackle in college football. 3-star recruit by most. So they got a lot of dudes. Now they're going to need a couple more to emerge, because I've always felt to beat a team like Ohio State, you need your dudes to be dudes, but a lot of those games are determined by who is the secondary type of player that steps up and plays the game of his life, makes the play of that's the kind of thing that can separate it. Like Ohio State last year. Notre Dame didn't lose to Ohio State because Marvin Harrison's the best receiver in college football, even though he kind of was, I thought, last year. It was the walk-on slot kid that had that big touchdown that broke that game open. It wasn't Travion Henderson, the 5-star running back that killed Notre Dame in the fourth quarter. It was Mayan Williams. It was Tommy Eichenberg stepping up. It wasn't the 5-star defensive ends. It was Tommy Eichenberg stepping up. And so, your dudes need to be dudes, but those secondary players got to go out there and do their thing too. And hopefully we'll see them do that. It's going to be a fun week breaking this whole thing down, buddy. I can promise you that. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun doing that. Charlie Weiss's last belt, Luke Vince, he said put it in before the show started, but just saying, hey, there are things to clean up. But we still scored 41 points and helped them 17 as well. This team is dangerous. Clean up the mistakes and protect Sam. Please go Irish. And he's spot on. I mean, he's spot on. Like, that's Vince, that's a great feeling for a coach. I've said this before. When you can come out of a game, like, man, we got a lot to fix. And you won 41-17.
Yeah.
And you outgained that other team by 310 yards. You're a good football team. You're a really good football team. Yes, I'm frustrated by stuff on defense, but it's frustrated because of what my standard is. My standard isn't to beat Central Michigan 41-17. It's beat Ohio State next week.
41-17.
Right. I don't care, man. It can be 17-16, 3-0. You can
joking.
Give me an old Iowa 7-3 game where you don't score a touchdown. I don't care. Just win the game.
Yeah, could not care less.
But that's what it boils down to for me. And this performance wasn't good enough to beat Ohio State. If Ohio State brings their A game, it's good enough to beat Ohio State based on how they played against Indiana. It's good enough to beat Ohio State based on the way they play on Youngstown State. But you're not going to get that version of Ohio State next week.
No.
You're going to get –
And Ohio State can't bank on the fact that they're going to get the Notre Dame that played today either.
Exactly.
I feel very strongly about that.
Exactly. I do agree with that. I do agree with that as well. You nailed that, Vince. Nailed it. There we go.
All right. From Mike Nolan, thank you for the super chat. Seems like Sam taking a lot of time reflected receivers not getting separation on mid routes. Is that pattern design or lack of ability to separate?
I don't agree with that takeaway. I think Sam holding the ball at times was him not processing with the right form. I mean, the one, for example, of Jaden Greathouse. Jaden Greathouse beat that guy off the line. Sam just didn't see him. Yeah. I mean, the plays where Chris Tyree was open and didn't get the ball, they were no different than the play he scored a touchdown on. Sam just never got there. Because the thing is, if a guy's open, but you get to him too early or you get to him too late, you're not in position to get him the football. I don't care, unless he's just wide open. Like there was one to Tobias Merriweather. He came open late. Well, he came open late because of the route design, right? You're trying to clear out for him.
Right.
Now, but there are also other times, to Mike's point, Vince, where I need to see the receivers come off with a little bit more urgency. That is a legitimate thing. It's not so much that they're not getting separation because they can't get separation. It's just there is a difference in that get off to me.
Right.
And that's kind of where I'm at, that I need to see a little bit more consistency from that regard.
Right.
That's my thing.
From Hunter Hall, thanks for the super chat. How do y'all feel about the 2 low hits on Sam Hartman? I only remember one off the top of my head. And he actually, so here's my issue with the one that I think everybody remembers, right? Where he started limping. First of all, he tripped over the offensive lineman who was pretty much busy holding him and ended up down by Sam's legs, right? My issue was he kind of twisted it once he got in there, which is a dirty play. And I did not like that.
Yes.
And And I don't
because
know if
at
there was
first
another
it
one
looked like
like
the
that
Navy
too.
game. Remember that
Right.
when everybody thought the
Right.
kid from Navy was a dirty
Right.
play? It wasn't a dirty play.
And
He got tripped into it.
Yeah, that and
But
he didn't.
That kid made a concerted effort to try to pull up on Sam.
Correct.
This
Correct.
kid kept going.
Correct.
And that was my beef. Yeah.
That was my
And
big
that's
beef.
where Marcus Freeman was talking about after the game, Vince.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get him to protect my players, protect Sam, protect my players.
Right.
And he said it the right way in during the game, but they better be raising holy heck with the ACC crews during the week.
Right. Because you got to call that, man.
You don't do that publicly. You because
Right.
officials are humans too. And guys, I'll tell you something right now, they don't make a lot of money doing this. They don't. That's why a lot of good officials I've been told have left, because they just don't make enough money now with how much things cost and to travel and how expensive things are. A lot of leagues don't pay the way they should be. Like, you want to talk about one of the things we don't talk enough about? Some of these teams aren't making enough money, or these leagues making hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're not paying officiating crew. Why do you have bad officiating crews? Well, why would you want to be an officiating crew? You got to pay your own way, and you're supposed to be making enough from it that it covers those things, and they're not. So screw that. So, but you go out there, they're human beings who don't make a lot of money. If
Right.
you're a millionaire coach and you're calling me out, basically, not directly, but saying how bad we are, and you go out there and call me out, I'm not going to be prone to, this isn't work to me. I'm going to fire me. Okay, I've saved money by getting fired from this job. I'm telling you something right now. The next time I officiate your game, don't be asking me for calls. And these are
Right.
human beings too. There's a right way and a wrong way to go about this at the collegiate level.
Yes.
It's
The
a little
NFL
different for the
officials,
NFL and professional because it's a little
they
different
get
at
paid
that
some
level.
bank.
Exactly. It's different for college officials, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And they're not trained well. And they're not investing the money, which is stupid because officiating impacts the outcome of games.
Right.
But,
Absolutely.
all these conferences, they don't care, but they just care about making money and maximizing money and all this type of thing. So it is what it is. But anyway, I didn't see the second hit, but I have heard from multiple people that they were doing a lot of twisting at legs of Notre Dame players in piles. And I don't care much for that. I don't mind physical play.
Sure.
But
the dirty
start
stuff
getting
in
into
the
that
pile,
crap. No, I don't get into that.
Okay.
You're raking at dudes, you know what?
Yeah.
And I mean,
right.
Yeah, I've wanted to fight a couple times after games back in the day for dudes trying to do that kind of stuff. There's no place for that, man. No place for that whatsoever.
Whoa, Joshua Board with the big old super chat. Thank you so much, Joshua. He says, me and my wife missed the game. We went to the Kuntz Fest, and she had a good time. I hate that I missed the game, but she's supposed to be at another fest next week when me and my Ohio State friend watch the game. I've got the bubble guts for a week, which means you partook in that festival.
Yeah. It's going to be a fun week, man. It's going to be a fun week.
Yes, it is.
So, Vince, before we get out of here, man, have you paid attention to some of the scores of these games today?
I've been watching some of them. They've been closer at the beginning than maybe at the end, but still some of these scores are a little ridiculous.
Well, Michigan just scored in the third quarter to go up on a 2-yard drive because Bowling Green, I don't know if they had a turnover or blocked the punt or whatever. They had a 2-yard drive. JJ McCarthy today is he's not even to 100 yards passing yet. 7 of 11 for 93 yards on Bowling Green. So Michigan's defense is playing well, but it's 21-6 in the third quarter, and Bowling Green is not good. They are not good. Some other Florida right now is boat racing Tennessee, by the way. It's 26-10, and Florida's got second and goal. I predicted that. I was wrong on the LSU. I predicted Mississippi State upset over LSU. Way off on that one. LSU smacked Mississippi State today at Mississippi State. But I predicted this one too. I did not like Tennessee the first 2 games, man. I did not like what I saw from them at all. So we had a bunch of actually we have a couple super chats pop in here, Vince. Let's get to this because we're kind of talking about some of these games and stuff.
Mike Nolan, agree on receivers' urgency, Brian. To quote Raymond Berry, the fake is vertical. I don't always see that with our guys, though Sam laid on a few. Right.
It was both, right? But here's the way I said it. Raymond Berry, obviously Hall of Fame wide receiver, also as a coach. I always said, look, with the exception of routes that I tell you are different, when you come off the line, everything needs to look like a go route. Everything needs to look like a go route. your urgency, your speed, your tempo.
Yep.
Because my whole thing is if you come off fast on a go route, off an off corner, he's not going to sit and squat on your slant.
Right.
When guys sit and squat on a slant, it's when you run off and you're higher. They're looking for tells. Like, so if I'm off the line and I come up high and I'm short chopping it, he knows something short's coming. He's sitting on that. But if I come off and I've got a nice, stride and I'm bam, 3 steps really fast and bam, hit that top end on the slant, I'm going to have some separation because my body language screamed vertical on that first play. Because the goal is you need to eat up that cushion as quickly as possible. Because anytime once you get that cornerback to flip his hips, he's toast if you're running anything other than a go route, right? And then if you're really selling that effectively, then when you are running a go route, he's not really sure if you're running a go route. And so you may sell it. Now, all of a sudden, you can just do like a little head nod at the top, and he's going to think, oh, come back. And then, nope, not come back. I'm still going. It was like, how did that guy turn that guy loose on like that on the go route? Because you watch, look at this little head nod he did at the top. Well, why'd he fall for that? Because the last 3 times he came off the line like that, he did a comeback.
Right.
That's why. But for Notre Dame, it's easy to tell right away, like, okay, there's no urgency here. But the other problem is some of these routes, Vince, were go routes. It's like there was maybe some uncertainty of what they're doing. I didn't know what the heck they were. That part, that's something that I hope Coach Stuckey is going to see that and address that, because there just needs to be a little bit more urgency coming off the line, in my opinion. I need to see a little bit more urgency. That's a big thing for me. Texas is beating Wyoming 10-7 at halftime.
Yeah.
That game, that's an interesting one. Very
It looks like
interesting
Michigan's probably going to put up a field goal here if they don't pick up this 3rd down. So they're probably going to start pulling away.
Holy moly. The fighting Clark Lees are losing going into the 4th quarter to UNLV 30-17.
Oh, that's not good.
Yes. Here's a good one. 4th quarter, South Alabama is beating Oklahoma State 23-7, and Oklahoma State just scored to make it 23-7.
Yeesh.
Yikes. Let's see a couple more scores. SMU's pounding somebody. Oh, man. Toledo's beating San Jose. Ole Miss beating Georgia Tech. Arkansas is up on BYU by 10. Kentucky's only beating Akron in the 4th quarter, 21-3. MAC team's giving some battles. Syracuse is beating Purdue 21-14, although Purdue just scored to make it 21-14. Ooh, some rough performances from quarterbacks today, man. Good Lord. In the 3rd quarter, Phil Dracovic is 3 of 8 for 33 yards and a pick. In the 3rd quarter, it's a 7. West Virginia's beating Pitt
7-6.
I wonder if there's rain. There's got to be like some bad weather there. Gotta be, because
I'm gonna pull it up.
Let me go. I'm trying to. I'm not sure if that's being shown in my area. Let me just go look real quick. Because West Virginia's only got 35 passing yards in the 3rd quarter.
It's at commercial at the present.
Okay.
Just FYI.
What are you watching on the thing I gave you?
No.
Huh?
Not this one. I'm watching a different game on the thing you gave me. But this one's on ESPN.
Okay. No, I just meant it doesn't look like there's any rain going on right now.
Nope, it looks pretty clear to me.
Yeah, that's weird.
The blimp is going over the stadium. Yeah. It looks like a pretty nice night, actually.
Weird, man. 7-6 game in the 3rd quarter. The 2 teams have combined for 68 passing yards. I don't know if that's great defense or just really bad offense. Maybe a little bit of both.
That's woof.
Yeah, but talk about having your letdown game after beating Bama. Sacramento State's beating Stanford in the 3rd quarter, 17-14. If you don't remember, Sacramento State is where Stanford's current head coach came from.
Ooh, little revenge game.
Tell you what, South Carolina gave Georgia a little bit of a scare for at least a half. Did you see Boston College? Boston College is terrible.
Boston College should have beat Florida State.
Yes, that was a weird game, man.
That would have been great to see.
Weird game. Alabama beat South Florida 17-3. The leading passer in the game was Byram Brown from South Florida, who went 14 of 28 for 87 yards. Ty Simpson went 5 of 9 for 73. Tyler Buckner went 5 of 14 for 34 yards. Here's my issue with that, though. I didn't watch the game, but looking at the box score, I guess Tyler Buckner got benched at halftime. He had 2 carries in the first half. You're not talking about not playing to your player's strengths.
One was for a first down. I know that because I watched it.
But Tyler Buchner should be carrying the ball more than twice and a half if you're going to be playing to his strengths.
Correct. And it was a torrential downpour.
Was it?
Okay. Before they actually called it for weather.
Yeah.
It was, you could barely see the players. It was raining so hard, like on TV.
Yeah, that's asking. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Great win for Missouri today. North Carolina's defense. How about North Carolina's defense so far, Vince? They held Minnesota to 13 points today, won 31-13 today.
I got to turn off this Pitt, West Virginia. It's too much yellow.
That's just,
there's just a lot going on there.
That's ugly. Did you see Wake Forest needed 27 points in the second half to come back and beat Old Dominion today.
Oh.
Yeah, but they got the win, so that's good for Notre Dame's strength of schedule.
True.
So that's good.
True.
All right. Any other interesting games here, Vince, from today? Louisville beat Indiana. That was good. I thought there was another game that I thought was interesting today. NC State beat VMI 45-7. It was 31-0 at halftime. And
I'm just looking at the ACC games right now.
Rough day for Virginia Tech. Rutgers beat them 35. Rutgers is 3-0, dude. Yeah,
I'll be happy when they take out Michigan.
They beat Northwestern in the opener. They beat two Power 5. Beat Northwestern in the opener 24-7. Beat Temple 36-7, and then just beat Virginia Tech 35-16. They are not beating Michigan next week. And I hope right now that you're on the show next week telling me to eat my words.
Me too.
But they're not.
Believe me, me too.
It's not happening. It's not happening, buddy. So anyway, Vince, that's going to do it for today. I don't think we have any more super chats. Let me just go look real quick. Oh, here we go. Last one from Robert Burke. And then
all right. Thanks, Robert. This is Ryan Harris in the radio. Speculated that Hartman's high throws near the end was due to a bad knee after he hobbled off. Any idea if he'll be 100%? I don't know. I didn't see an issue with the way he was playing.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I didn't see that. And if anything, if you hurt your knee and you're driving off your plant leg, I've always found that it ends up making your throws die a little bit because you can't drive off of it. So, but he should be okay. I think he'll be fine. If he was, now look, he's probably in some pain right now because the adrenaline's worn off.
It's going to be sore.
I think he'll be okay.
Wait, guess what? He will play against Ohio State.
I'll be shocked unless they got to find out there's some damage done. But I mean, if there was damage done, he wouldn't have been.
They wouldn't have rolled him back out there.
I didn't notice him like walking with a limp that like afterwards or anything like that. I didn't see anything like that.
When did that hit take place? Do you remember?
Oh, it was one first. I thought it was the first. I don't remember. I thought it was the first half. I don't remember.
I thought it was too. And therefore, if that is accurate, then I have no problem with the way things ended up going down because I thought he played pretty darn well in the second half.
No, actually, now I think about it, it might have been early third quarter.
Early third quarter?
I think it was the second possession of the third quarter.
Okay.
Is when I think it was. And so they were up 28-14. It was second possession of the third quarter.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, somebody just confirmed. He said it was right after the Stace run, which is what I have on my notes as well. So, yeah.
Okay.
That was one of those plays where I thought the receivers came off the line without. And I don't want to use the word slow because I think the misconception that portrays. But
we talked about this.
Bill Milton. Good.
We talked about this play actually, David, earlier on when we were talking about the offense. He meant to throw that high. If he throws that low, that's an interception.
Yes, 100%.
So
because there's a defender coming from the other direction. He cannot throw that ball on a line. That ball had to go high.
Yes.
The throw that he missed was the high throw he missed was the one before that to Jaden Greathouse. And let me see if I can find that. I thought that was actually in the first half. I could be wrong. No, it was the next drive. He sailed the ball to Greathouse. So maybe that's what Ryan's talking about because the next possession, he threw the two high throws to over Greathouse. The one he just missed. He just sailed it. But he put too much juice on that. Like, you're not putting too much juice on a ball if you just had an injury. The next one he had to throw high. If he doesn't throw that next one high, it's getting picked off.
Yeah,
right. 100%. Exactly. So I'm looking at the sequence, Vince, and it's – but here's the thing, though. The first play he had after the injury the first play he had was the 42-yard bomb to Rico Flores. So he threw that, and then he hit that swing pass to Jeremiah Love, and then at the back-to-back misses to Jaden. And only one of those was not supposed to be high.
Right.
Yeah. So
there you go.
That's my 2 cents on that one there, Vince.
Yep. Agreed.
So, all right, man. That's going to do it. Why don't you go ahead and take us out of here, buddy?
All right, man. Everybody, thanks for joining us for yet another post-game show. And look, again, bottom line, Notre Dame, 4 wins, 0 losses. That's what you want. That's what everybody wanted going into the Ohio State game. Yes, there's things to clean up. Yes, they haven't played their A-plus game yet, but just wait. If I know anything about Marcus Freeman, he will have these guys ready to go for next week. So
whether they execute or not remains to be seen, but this team will be fired up,
ready to play.
Ready to play next week.
They'll be ready to play. So hit that like button on your way out, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and share with your family and friends, because you just never know when there's going to be a pop-up show from Irish Breakdown. You know, we're supposed to go at 8:00 tomorrow night. Maybe we don't. Maybe we go at 7. Maybe we go at 9. You don't know.
We go Monday.
You just don't know, folks.
You
got to hit that notification bell, okay? I appreciate you guys dropping in. Thanks for all the super chats, everybody. This is one of my favorite shows, but my most favorite show, it's coming tomorrow, so make sure you guys check out Upon for the review. And then, of course, this week is going to be jam-packed, guys. Shows during the afternoon, shows in the evening. You know, it's a night game on Saturday, so we're going to get our fill of tailgating. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, man.
And we're glad you guys are all going to be along with us for the ride. So, for Brian, I'm Vince. We will talk to you next time on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.